Part 235. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2347. When he was full of doubts, the expression of a soldier in charge of intelligence behind him changed drastically. "It's bad, sir. We have just received intelligence, the front line, the battle scenes on the front line, and survivor information have been transmitted. There is a problem with Jiayan. Sir, let's run away." The demeanor of the senior domain master suddenly changed. At the same moment, various speculations about Jiayan's arrival emerged in his heart. Wrong. So wrong. No matter what, the sense of crisis welling up in the back of my mind cannot be deceiving. The best option is to leave. Puff. Without thinking much at all, the senior domain lord abandoned the soldiers who had revealed information to him, broke open the wall of the mansion, and fled like a deserted place, using all his speed. Escape the city. At the same time, the senior domain master who was flying in the sky and was almost approaching Jiayan saw the giant mosquito looking down at him in the sky, smiling and waving his feet gently. "Sir, I have to say that your companion is a little smarter than you. But, including him, none of you can escape." On both sides of the giant mosquito's body, facing downwards, two large spatial gaps were opened, as big as himself. You must know that it is difficult and a waste of energy to open such a large gap in the northern giant star and maintain it for a period of time. Can't escape? Huh, you said we couldn't escape, but you opened the subspace and prepared to escape? Where to escape? The senior domain master who flew up from below had an expression of some surprise and uncertainty, but after seeing the subspace opened by Jiayan, his expression instantly became a little bit contemptuous, because he determined that this Jiayan must be she was just pretending to be a ghost, just to let him catch up later, so that he would have time to escape. For him, he didn't feel at all that he and others would lose to the Jiayan in front of him in their lair. There is no strong person who controls the power around him. At the same time, when the previous intelligence came, it was also said that the enemy fighting on the front line was only Jiayan. Although he had felt something was wrong before, after seeing the appearance of the subspace, he still firmly believed that it was Jiayan himself who wanted to escape. Even the sense of threat that kept flickering deep in his heart was ignored. Isn't it normal to feel threatened when meeting a fighting-type territory lord? Puff. Puff. When he was still stubborn, he wanted to rush to Jiayan and attack him at the moment before Jiayan entered the subspace. Two understated sounds rang out slightly above the head of the strong man. Then, he saw that inside the gap in space, suddenly, like bullets, two black shadows spewed out from the front and back. This shadow thing is as fast as lightning. But as a strong senior territory lord, he can still see the general shadow of the coming thing. At least this senior territory lord has witnessed vividly that the two big shadow things coming, and the two bumpy things. Like the remains of living things, there is even a little bit of Jiayan's breath left on it. Jiayan's remains? No, isn't Jiayan in good health? Is this his molted shell? What's the purpose of spewing out something like this? The senior domain master had a strange look on his face. Although he had reached Jiayan and was close enough to attack Jiayan, the last sense of crisis deep in his heart still made him give up attacking Jiayan and instead fly downwards. Go. He was ready to get out of the way of the thing that was spitting out of subspace. Jiayan was in the sky, shaking his head imperceptibly. Why did he spray out two blasts of positive and negative explosives? Just because the strong man below is too close, one needs to be used to deal with him. Even if it is a waste of the power of one, it is not a loss for Jiayan to deal with a senior with one explosive. But the problem is that this veteran's speed has only fully burst out now, and he is not slow at all. It would take at least a while for the subspace explosives he shot to catch up to him. This resulted in the explosive falling with the senior strong man. When it hit the strong man, it could also affect the city below. In this way, the energy of the two explosives will definitely have a terrifying bonus. Haha, these two explosives have more material and are definitely more powerful than the explosives that killed the 3 senior domain lords before. I will directly consume all the cocoons that lose energy quickly. There are only about half of the substances left that can be preserved for a long time, so we can look forward to the power of the explosion later. The explosion is over, it's time for me to leave this North Star. If I don't run away after I've done the poking, why don't I wait for the enemies to swarm in and kill me? Hee, just run away after pretending to be cool. It's so exciting. Jia Yan laughed in his heart. At this moment, everything has actually been done. Puff puff puff. Ha ha hoo. 2 shadows of black silkworm cocoon explosives flew downward quickly, as if they were changing shape and form, as fast as lightning. One of them flew unswervingly towards the city on the ground, while the other seemed to possess spirituality and chased after the strong man, who turned around and rushed to the ground, preparing to get rid of the explosives behind him. What the hell? Is there something different about this dark thing? As a senior domain lord, he actually doesn't value his own strength and external objects that much. There may be quite a few ordinary domain lords who value external technological things and certain unique treasures, and even create them as one of their own trump cards, but the problem is that this limits their continued progress. The motivation and pressure disperse the energy even more. At the level of senior territory lord, there were almost no examples of using foreign objects, let alone any ordinary foreign objects that could easily hurt oneself. So he just ran away, but he didn't worry too much about the real threat from the black thing chasing him. The only thing he worried about was whether Jia Yan behind him would take advantage of the fact that he was attacked by this foreign object. Next, chase him and give him a fatal blow. This is what he is most worried about. As a result, the senior domain master asked him to slow down his life-saving escape after leaving Jia Yan for a while, otherwise it would be a waste of energy. Then, without fear, he turned around and faced the black shadow behind him. You keep chasing me. Do you think this kind of thing can really hurt me? Get out of here. This strong man, without any tricks, faced the approaching black shadow behind him, and there was an extremely terrifying aura brewing, as if he was about to break through the black thing that was chasing after him. He met Jia Yan from behind and fought with Jia Yan in one breath. Madness. Jia Yan from above gave a cold drink, and then a sound burst out from his mouth. Burst. Boom 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 boom. The senior domain master felt that his eyes were filled with bright colors. Then, he found an unbelievable heat wave and the hard penetrating material of explosive things hitting his body. The speed and hardness of this explosive material were beyond his ability to understand. This. After all, a senior domain master is still a senior domain master. For him, as long as he does not reach the astonishing strength of the domain master, there is nothing that can make him unable to even react and kill him. So at this moment, he still stepped back. From here, it can be seen that this territory lord should be a speed-type territory lord, with astonishingly fast reactions and speed. If he fights with Jia Yan, besides being able to enter the subspace to fight guerrilla warfare, Jia Yan will be suppressed very severely in other ways. He may not even have the power to backhand. After all, at this level, Jia Yan's fighting with too little experience, against speed-type beings, they can only be beaten passively. But here's the thing. Jia Yan didn't confront him at all, and he didn't have the chance. From the moment he looked down on Jia Yan's positive and negative explosives, his outcome was doomed. Get out of my way. The senior domain master's face changed wildly, and he later thought that he had got out of the reach of the explosives and opened up a piece of defensive material. But what made his face change even more wildly was that when he thought so, he felt that the explosive behind him seemed to have just exploded. After experiencing the small power of the explosion for the first time, it actually in an instant, more terrifying light and heat bloomed. What? No, I. Before he finished speaking, the territory lord was like a small life in front of a sea of fire, swallowed up by the flames in an instant. He didn't even leave any last words for a long time. He was as fast as he was and died in an instant. Huh? What the hell? It's not good. Your Excellency was, exploded, the explosion actually came down. Quick, quick, run away. Even adults can't stop you, let alone us. There is another explosive that has not fallen. What on earth is this thing? When the explosive Jiayan caused the existence of the senior domain master just now to be vaporized in an instant, and was swallowed up in the explosion, a large group of people below could judge the various levels of the results of the battle through their eyes or breath. Everyone was shocked by the presence of the territory lord. Jiayan was promoted to territory lord, and his combat effectiveness may reach that of a combat-type territory lord, that is, a senior level. They all had guesses, but the problem was that the one who came up was also a senior, and a speed-type senior, among all the senior territory lords. I am afraid that the combat effectiveness will not be ranked in the lower reaches. If such a domain lord goes up, they are not worried that they may be defeated by Jiayan. The fighting type is powerful, but no matter how you look at it, he is just a newly promoted being. How can he have the ability to fight with a relatively powerful senior domain lord? It's simply impossible. Therefore, they quite trusted the strength of the senior domain lord, but what they never expected was that when the domain lord rose from the sky, he had not yet successfully fought with Jiayan. To put it bluntly, even Jiayan was powerful, still not powerful. I don't know if it was a bluff or the real thing, but the things that spewed out from the subspace that Jiayan casually tore open, could not reach the sky or the earth. Now, he was swallowed up by the explosion, as if his resisting actions had no effect at all. As a result, all the territory lords below who understood what happened, one or two, were all shocked, and then after the shock, a strong heartbeat arose. They figured out what was going on with the series of explosions in the distant place just now, and what was going on with those terrible fluctuations that just came from under their feet. Damn it, are they all caused by similar explosives? What's more, I have already thought that what Jiayan was famous for in the early days was not only the joint tactics, but also another more famous thing that allowed Jiayan's troops to fight continuously despite the initial lack of training. The thing that Ji helps is his, Onmyedo explosives. Could it be that this thing is also a so-called explosive? How could it be so strong? The domain masters thought quickly, but the biological soldiers at and below the galaxy level couldn't figure it out. Few of them could even see clearly the changes that happened so quickly just now. It is impossible to understand such a sudden change without a certain level of strength. Even the galaxy level is just a little surprised. Before they could be surprised, they saw a large number of domain lord creatures around them, one or two, taking off from their sides and rushing into the sky in a panic. It seems that they are going up to besiege Najian? Huh, this Jiayan is really bold and very lucky. Being able to die under the attack of such a large number of powerful domain masters is considered his fate, and he will become a legend in the future. All the soldiers below the galaxy level looked at the territory lords rising into the sky and thought that Jiayan was so capable that he actually wanted so many territory lords to besiege him. You know, although there is a gap between ordinary domain masters and powerful senior domain masters, 5 or 6 more powerful ordinary domain masters can still tie with one senior domain master, and even weak domain masters, with more than 10 or 20 you can always tie with a senior, right? And there are more than a dozen or 20 ordinary domain lords taking off now? There are at least 100 of them. While the galaxy-level beings lamented that Jiayan was lucky enough to be able to stir up such a huge momentum and die without any regrets, Some galaxy-level beings were keenly aware that these territory lords who took off were not heading towards flying towards Jiayan in the sky. Instead, it was moving in all directions, wanting to use all its strength to fly away from the city. In an instant, I don't know how many Zing-level people, their minds suddenly shook, and they felt that things did not seem to be what they imagined. However, not long after the feeling that something was wrong had just arisen, the following galaxy-class people had already seen the soaring heatwave in the sky that had just swallowed up the senior domain lord, like an atomic bomb explosion, coming fiercely. Is this power so terrifying? This thought was the only thing that the first batch of galaxy-class people who were swallowed by the power of the explosion thought about. Afterwards, they were quickly swallowed up by the power of the explosion, and no thoughts could arise. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2348. As for the farther galaxy class, as well as the territory lords who flew a certain distance away, at this moment, they were still rejoicing that the first explosion was still far away from the city and so high, killing a group of galaxy class directly below the explosion. Is already at the end of its strength. But the problem is, another black shadow had already taken advantage of the shock wave to fall from the sky and arrived at the commander's mansion where the remaining senior domain lord was. Puff. At this last moment, I saw that the senior domain lord, who had already rushed out of the mansion, had already fled to the outskirts of the mansion. He saw that after escaping for a while, he would be 500 meters away from the explosion range. But this 500 meters is still the relative center point of the explosion. Boom! The huge shockwave exploded in an instant, and the houses and other things in the way did not bring much slowing effect on it at all, and rushed directly behind the senior domain lord. Get out of my way! The territory lord shouted hoarsely, and fiercely faced back to resist the terrifying impact energy. Block it for me! At the same time, a large number of territory lords around, one by two, resisted the aftermath of the energy. It's a pity that the strength among them is uneven, and the existence of weaknesses is directly blasted backwards by the terrifying shock wave, or even directly swallowed up by the power in the shock wave. The stronger ones were also seriously injured and were directly swallowed up by the power of the second wave of explosions. The senior domain master was able to withstand it relatively easily. After all, he escaped from the center of the explosion. For the North Star, the atmospheric pressure here was too great. Even at a distance of 500 meters, even therefore, the current Jiayan explosives will also be greatly weakened. So he was just pushed back by the energy and collapsed one house after another, causing a lot of dust to fly and countless houses shattered. It was not until 1 kilometer away that he stopped in embarrassment. Smoke and dust were rising all over his body, and there were blood stains on the surface of his body. Boom 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 boom. Shock waves are still rippling all around, endless flying sand and rocks, endless terrifying energy surges, endless radiation, endless screams and roars. When the senior domain lord recovered from his dizziness, he realized that the surroundings were already in ruins. The entire huge regional city had turned into tatters, and the corpses of soldiers and officials of their army were everywhere. Hua hua hua. There were still a lot of stones falling, and the originally prosperous metropolis turned into a city of destruction. At the center of the explosion, there was almost no intact building. It's hard to imagine the kind of damage that could be caused inside the Northern Giant, a planet where this kind of energy doesn't show up at all. This. The senior territory lord looked at the hellish scene in front of him and couldn't believe it at all. He felt horrified. How many people died in such an explosion? There were so many territory lords gathered around him just now. How many of them died because they were not strong enough? There is also another senior who is fighting Jiayan in the sky. He was hit by an explosion of this energy. I am afraid it will be a disaster. and the 3 seniors who went to the reinforcements 100 kilometers away. If we were to encounter explosives of this level, wouldn't it be? Thinking of this, the senior domain master felt his whole body tighten and his heart almost stopped beating. He couldn't imagine what kind of explosive this was. Even the most senior ones could blow up small fishes, killing 1 or 2. If Jia Yan had such a method, he would have used it long ago. He alone could form a formidable army. Not to mention anything else, if he found a small or medium-sized power place without a middle-level domain lord, he could defeat the entire power by one person. The powerful senior domain lord would run away if he saw him. It's scary. This Jia Yan is so scary. Fortunately, I resisted, otherwise I would have died under this explosion. Really? Your Excellency is really powerful. You can escape from that level of explosion. Your defense ability is really strong. Puff. When the senior domain master, who was only half alive, was mumbling to himself with his eyes showing the fluctuations of the aftermath of the disaster, he only heard a cold voice coming from behind him. Then, he felt his abdomen being stabbed hard by a sharp object. This senior domain lord, who is a senior after all, was ready to take evasive action at the same moment he heard the sound, but what he didn't expect was that the person who came was silent, and he was not even aware of the attack. How many? Of course, the most critical point is that this veteran is at the end of his life, with only half a breath left in his life. He was seriously injured, which affected his energy, reaction, perception, etc., otherwise he would not be so easily approached. So after being stabbed, he didn't even have time to react and was directly stabbed in the abdomen. Puff puff. He struggled a few times, but he only felt that the sharp object stabbed into his abdomen, detonating the brainwave power inside his body. This terrifying force of positive and negative brainwaves was like a raging storm, detonating his body from the inside. His internal organs exploded one by one, and then, under the raging energy, they turned into a large number of fragments with no possibility of recovery. The senior domain master felt that his vitality was disappearing rapidly, so he exclaimed intermittently, and reluctantly turned around to see clearly the face of the person coming behind him. As expected, a half-body giant mosquito emerged from the subspace, using its ferocious mosquito head to look at him calmly, with some kind of violent and cathartic pleasure flashing in his compound eyes. Jia Yan, good job, he, good. The senior domain lord, whether he was sincere or bitterly sarcastic about himself, burst out with words of praise for Jia Yan. Then his voice became smaller and smaller, and his brainwave power plummeted instantly. Even his ability to self-destruct with Jia Yan was improved. Unable to get up, Jia Yan's head exploded from inside his body, and he finally lost his voice. Poof. Feeling the stabbing body, Jia Yan fell to the ground, his eyes flashing like torches. The 5th domain lord. In one battle, I killed 5 senior domain lords and ordinary domain lords, I can't even count them. Ha ha ha, I am naturally good. You don't need to tell me. A being who has just been promoted to the level of domain lord can do such a thing. If I am not a good person, who else is good? Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The giant mosquito seemed to have been washed away, and its brainwave power swept around wildly. In the past, in the central star field of the Milky Way, and in this northern giant star, the scholar type who was extremely calm, used his head in everything, and was not impulsive could even be said to be the peak of the middle-level erudite type in the galaxy. The strong man is gone now. Those who stay here seem to be those who only know how to fight and enjoy the pleasure of killing enemies. He became extremely arrogant. Yes, in fact, Jia Yan's true nature has always been extremely arrogant. He was so arrogant that he could only accommodate a few people, and he was extremely confident in himself. It's just that during this period of time, there were too many things that made him scruple or even fearful, so he suppressed them all and showed a submissive attitude and planned everything beforehand. In fact, although he is afraid of death, his nature is definitely not what he has shown recently. Now he has finally returned to his original appearance. Ha 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 ha. What does the domain master mean? What does the seniority mean? What does this war mean? Such a partial army can be solved by me alone, how happy it is. It suddenly comes to light. Ha ha ha, it's a pity that there is no wine, ha ha ha. The giant mosquito stood proudly among the ruins. Its slender mosquito feet gracefully stepped on the ruins, step by step, smiling arrogantly. The air around him was shaken by the arrogant laughter of such a man, and then he sent out extremely astonishing sound waves, sweeping around wildly. Even some of the Galaxy-class survivors who were lucky enough to survive this horrific explosion and hid in the powerful fortifications of the ruins. The survivors who might have been able to survive with only one breath were shocked by the sound wave and died behind the bunkers. Pyridine. Jia Yan. You don't deserve to die. Poof. A mouthful of blood spurted out. The giant mosquito elegantly pulled out his sharp legs, and a strong domain lord who was also hiding in the dilapidated bunker but had a lot of power was easily assassinated by him. Even the galaxy level can survive, and it is even more natural that some territory lords survive. It's just that they don't dare to move, or even take a breath, otherwise they will be discovered by Jia Yan like the current territory lord, and then easily killed. It's just that the territory lord, after all, the territory lord who can survive this explosion will not be a simple character. I am afraid there will be those who are really good at hiding. They hide in some hidden places and then hide it from the public, making Jia Yan didn't notice it. But Jia Yan doesn't care anymore. He doesn't necessarily want to kill them all. Now he has killed almost half of the hundreds of thousands of enemy troops in the city. The territory lord level is even more numerous, and the 5 senior ones have all been killed by him. A single person can destroy all the people. This partial army can be said to be directly destroyed. How can he not be satisfied? But after doing this, he couldn't continue. If the delay continues, God knows whether there will be any action from the enemy's main force. Another territory lord has died. It's good, and the results are fruitful. But, that's it? It's time to go. Otherwise, if the enemy becomes furious and chases me with all the strength of his army, I'm afraid it won't be enough. If I escape into the starry sky, they will send out an army to chase me, which would be a bit of a headache. Jia Yan looked at the sky and then at the surrounding scenery, and suddenly sighed. In this North Star, he can be regarded as getting what he wanted. Before and after, in about 4 years, he actually used the overall cultivation environment of the superstar to cultivate the way of the territory lord that he had dreamed of. Although there was a lot of depression and grievances in the process was not important. The goal was achieved, and at the last moment, he completed the destined battle that would be recorded in history. He did not have any regrets at all. Sighs, sourness, happiness, and some kind of relief, plus a lot of domain lord level insights, and the excitement of energy, all showed up in his body at this moment, making him dizzy because of the promotion. Jia Yan became even more unreal. But unreality is fake. He knows very well that he in such a highlight moment is reality. He did it. Very cowhide. I don't know how the controlling forces and the enemy coalition will react after learning about this matter. My soldiers and commanders from Jia Yan's unit, as well as the 3 seniors who protect me, plus the little princess who has dealt with me, and the disciples' family, how will they react in surprise when they know this? Woolen cloth? But that doesn't matter anymore. Let's go, so as not to be besieged. Even though the survivability will definitely improve, it's not necessary. I don't want to live the kind of life where I'm being hunted down like a dog in the water. Jia Yan sighed and calmed down his countless emotions. Finally, he looked up at the sky, and seemed to see the pitch-black universe outside through the extremely clear blue sky atmosphere of the North Star. Gone. Groan. The wings flapped, and the giant mosquito rose from the ground. Gradually, bit by bit, unscrupulously, further around, under the attention of a large number of enemy soldiers, and tremblingly, an eye of each level was revealed from behind the bunker. The surviving soldiers rose upwards under fearful observation. My name is Jia Yan. Come from the outer world, now, return to the outer world. But I will definitely come back. I will remember the kindness of those who control the power, and I will remember the hatred of you and other forces. Just wait, it could be 100 years later or more than 10 years soon. I will definitely come back. Everyone, see you tomorrow. The arrogant figure of the giant mosquito slowly climbed up while drinking out the sound of brainwave power, making it clear to everyone below whether it was enemy troops, some prisoners, or even spies. This battle is destined to be impossible to hide, and will be spread to everyone very soon, even now. What he said is destined to become known to everyone very quickly. Jia Yan was not threatening anyone, nor was he unwilling to accept anything, he was just saying it. He has reached the domain lord level, and his actual combat power is comparable to that of a senior combat type domain lord. Shouldn't he be allowed to be arrogant? Not to mention, he still has half of the exploding cocoons in stock. Even if a senior domain lord comes, he can blow them up one by one. If he is not arrogant, who is? Yin yin yin. The giant mosquito began to accelerate, not even looking at the entire huge city below that was blown to pieces by it. The strong wind in his ears began to accelerate, and everything began to become distorted and hazy after he rose to 20,000 meters. The pressure in the northern giant star begins to change at an altitude of 20,000 meters. When it goes up to the atmosphere above 1 million kilometers, this pressure change will continue until it flies for a long time, and slowly. I don't know how long this pressure will last. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2349. This process becomes more and more difficult as you go up. In the middle stage, it is probably impossible for the middle-level galaxy to withstand it. This is also the reason why only those who have reached the territory lord level can freely enter and exit the northern superstar. But this is no longer an obstacle to Jia Yan. He is not only a territory lord, but also a fighting territory lord who is stronger than ordinary territory lords. Oh, right. Jia Yan suddenly thought of something. While he kept flying upward, he used his brainwave power to take out the brain from his body. This thing is high-end, but it is only within the North Star. If it is outside the North Star, it will be nothing. Moreover, during the process of rising pressure and change, the brain will definitely become gone, so Jia Yan didn't care whether it would break or not, so he took it out and used it in such a high place. From his thoughts just now, he thought about the disciples, that is, the little fish's family. If he left so inexplicably, then this family might be in trouble in the future. Now that he has accepted someone as his disciple, he might as well do it to the end. Besides, Jia Yan does have one less good disciple. The fish is too young. If he comes back in a few years and teaches again, he might be a talented disciple worth teaching. Maybe Xiao Yuer has learned a lot by herself based on the Yin and Yang Tao foundation she has in hand. The person who answered the call was the father of Xiao's family. Jia Yan himself commonly called him Lao. Old Yu, how is your family? Master Jia, Jia Yan? Our family is doing well. It couldn't be better. Ever since you started to show your talents in the northern region, our family's treatment has become better and better day by day. In the past 2 days, we were even visited by the regional commander. We were really scared. Xiao's family must be doing well recently, and even the old fish who picked up the video is a little blessed. The good-looking old merchant fish turned into a fat-headed fish with a fat head and big ears. Haha, just live a good life. You tell Xiao that my master will leave Beuxing for a while. Look, he will leave the planet. You let him practice well. Soon, I will return to be a superstar, teach her well. Leave North Star. This. When the old fish heard Jia Yan's voice, he was originally in a depressed mood because it was widely spread that Jia Yan's disappearance might be due to death. After hearing Jia Yan say that he was leaving Beostar, he suddenly felt a trace of sadness. Something's wrong. Leave? Northern Superstar? Can you leave so easily? Many people have also left Beostar, and I don't know how long it has been since they came back. Wrong. Suddenly, this fish creature felt surprised when he saw Jia Yan, the creature flying freely in front of him in the Zhinao video. Didn't I say that without the strength of the Territory Lord, it is impossible to fly independently to the outside world of the North Star? Why does Mr. Jia Yan? Lord Jia Yan, I will supervise Xiao in her cultivation. Don't worry, sir. After thinking for a long time, the fat-headed old fish finally suppressed the idea of asking, because he was not in a position to ask such a question. If Jia Yan didn't say it himself, he might just ask the backer's trump card. Well, I'll go talk to a few more people about you, so as to protect your safety. Thank you, Master Jia Yan. After turning off the communication, Jia Yan felt a little unmotivated. Xiao's father is indeed immortal. He turns his head so slowly that he doesn't know why he can break through the North Star. It's really annoying to have nowhere to brag. Jia Yan thought about it and realized that there was still room for bragging, not to mention that he really needed to take care of his disciples and his family in some aspects. Toot toot. Click. Jia Yan. You're not dead yet? I got news that you were fighting with people from the northern region. As soon as the communication was connected, a crisp little girl's voice came from the other side. Opposite the video, I saw a small half-grown girl with little horns on her head and wings on her back. She looked like a little devil. When the little devil saw Jia Yan, her tail flicked back and forth, obviously expressing her good mood. Haha, I didn't expect Her Royal Highness to care about me so much. Of course I will be fine, but the enemy troops who came to attack me suffered a lot of losses. Jia Yan smiled mysteriously. He knew that part of the information here must have reached the power of the master. However, the little Princess Sila was not such an important core official, so naturally she would not have first-hand information. TCH, don't brag to me. I don't know you yet. You must have escaped after a small fight. Otherwise, if you meet a domain lord, you will be dead. Sila's expression of I know you best felt like a roundworm in Jia Yan's stomach. Believe it or not, Your Highness, little princess, I have something to ask for your help. I am leaving Beostar now, and I will probably not return for a while, so the purpose of this chat is to say goodbye to you, and the other purpose is to I am going to tell you that I will let you take care of my disciple and his family. I will come back in the future. I hope that my disciple and the power of the master will still exist by then. Jia Yan spoke calmly and with an equal attitude. That's right, he didn't drift away, but after arriving at the Territory Lord, he would have been able to have an equal dialogue with the little Princess Sila, a member of the master family who was not too core, to a certain extent. Otherwise, the Territory Lord would have to look up to the people from the master's family. The people from their family are a bit too domineering. Jia Yan himself didn't think there was anything wrong, but his words made the little devil princess on the opposite side of the video startled. Then she came to her senses and quickly looked at the surrounding scenery of Jia Yan's video. If this isn't rising high in the sky, then where is it? This, you want to leave North Star. But, is there any territory lord to send you? No. Why do you want to leave North Star? We control the power now, but at a time of life and death, we left you, his fighting power will be much less. No, I want to chat with you again, and I also want to play with you. Suddenly, the little devil was like a deflated rubber ball, looking annoyed and feeling quite unhappy. She had a very good attitude towards Jia Yan. Someone in the family had previously said that they would use exaggerated means to control this powerful outsider and make him hand over the secrets of the training troops in a steady stream. She was very enthusiastic about it. Objection: of course, this kind of thing is Jia Yan's personal cultivation and understanding. Even if he does this, the master faction will have difficulty getting anything. As long as he deceives people a little, the combat effectiveness of Jia Yan's troops will be greatly increased. At a discount, others still don't know whether it is true or false. Therefore, no one advocated that much at that time, and with the strong opposition of the little Princess Sila, the matter was settled. But it's true that people really helped. But now, Jia Yan said that he wanted to leave at this critical moment. Even if the Beiju area was more dangerous, he couldn't just leave. Haha, Your Highness Princess, I am not running away, but I really have something to do. Besides, don't think that I have escaped. In this war in the north, I have already given you a big gift to control the power. In return for being taken care of by you for a while. Jia Yan smiled. But while laughing, Jia Yan saw another tall creature coming over the little devil's lens, and this creature looked like the fox domain lord who had taken care of little Sila before. His appearance was the same. If Jia Yan hadn't known that the senior fox had passed away long ago, he might have thought he was the senior fox domain master. The coming fox domain lord creature had a very strange expression. It came to the little princess, looked at Jia Yan in the camera, then quietly bent down and said something to the little devil. What? Jia Yan, you single-handedly killed a group army in the northern region. Have you practiced to the extent of the territory lord? No, even if you have cultivated to the territory lord, it is impossible to have this fighting power. The little devil originally listened casually, but after listening to it, his beautiful eyes suddenly widened in disbelief. Cool. Jia Yan was originally thinking about how he could make the little princess understand that he had done something earth-shattering and then brag about it. Unexpectedly, there was a strong domain lord level next to him and he came to the little princess. Standing next to her, he told her the result of his victory. In this way, he didn't have to say it himself. This way of showing off made him even more happy. Ahem, that's right, I just reached the domain lord level in the past 2 days, and as you can see, once I reach the domain lord level, I will be a fighting domain lord, with strength comparable to that of a senior. Don't show that expression. Of course I know that it is impossible for a senior to destroy an army group, but I have my own unique methods, especially after I was just promoted, I have some relatively easy to use weapons. In short, it is true that after the First World War, I will invade the north here. An enemy group army has been wiped out, killing 5 senior ones. In addition, there are dozens of ordinary domain lords, not counting the galaxy level, there are probably several hundred. So you masters of power can send some troops over to regain this area. Region, they must have only a few strong men left. Jia Yan said calmly, as if he had done an insignificant thing. But while saying this, the little devil princess on the opposite side of the video, and the fox domain lord creature behind her, seemed to hear something impossible. Their eyes became more and more dull, and then they seemed to hear what a myth. This, are you really so powerful? The 5 major, 5 senior domain lords? Jia Yan, do you know what this means? The 5 major domain lords account for a small half of the enemy forces in the northern enemy area. They are the strongest. If you can doing this shows that our masters can really plan a counterattack. And there are so many ordinary domain lords, and galaxy level, The little Princess Sela's mouth has become O-shaped. Although she is still young, she may not be much better than the average strong person in fighting. After all, she is a child who has been playing in the battle, so she can do this for Jia Yan. I really have a deep understanding of things. As for the creature behind her, who looked like a senior fox but was very unfamiliar to the fox territory lord, he became more and more solemn. But after Jia Yan finished telling the results of all the battles, he breathed a deep sigh and turned to reveal his face. A more respectful expression. Because he is just an ordinary territory lord, just like the old fox creature. There is an extremely terrible gap between such a territory lord, let alone Jia Yan, and ordinary senior ones. Encountering a senior deep domain master, he was able to sacrifice his life to protect the little princess just like the old fox. Even if he was lucky, he didn't want to fight at all. But Jia Yan was able to kill 5 senior people just after being promoted to territory lord. From the intelligence point of view, the result of this battle was really a real frontal battle, and it also caused huge changes in the terrain of the entire region. With such power, no matter what method he uses, he is a terrifying existence that is far above him. How can he be disrespectful? That's right, little princess, what you think is correct. You can counterattack. I'm thinking that the enemy will take my existence into consideration for the time being and won't dare to send too many senior soldiers out alone. If they shrink back, you'll have to fight back. When you stabilize the northern theater in one fell swoop, or even if you choose the right time, you have the opportunity to drive them all out of the north. Everything depends on whether you can grasp it. Jia Yan smiled and nodded. Under the watch of horror, doubt, admiration, and various complex emotions from the opposite group, he continued with the following words. I do have something to do. I need to leave Beuxing for a while. Your Royal Highness, the little princess, just said, take care of my little apprentice, you can give me some snacks. You can also keep this video for other people in the master family to see. Look, if you can't do it, wait until I return in a few days and see my apprentice's family ruined, I may be angry. When Jia Yan said he was angry, there was a dangerous luster in his eyes, making others understand that what he said was definitely not a joke. The little princess on the opposite side of the communication, as a princess who has a somewhat friendly relationship with Jia Yan, was shocked in her heart, and then she realized that this seemed to be Jia Yan's true character. I had seen her in the North Star in the past. Jia Yan, who is so respectful and even a bit like a bitch, is not who he is at all. I promise you on behalf of Her Royal Highness the Princess and the power of the Master, but Your Excellency Jia Yan. Without waiting for the little princess to reply, the Fox Territory Lord behind the little princess actually started to take the initiative. Just as Jia Yan turned his attention to him, he saw that this fox creature, like the old fox domain master, had a shrewd look in his eyes, and then asked, but Your Excellency Jia Yan, if you come back next time at that time, it happened that the power I controlled reached a critical moment of life and death, but I still tried my best to protect your disciples' family. I wonder if you are willing to lend a helping hand to the power I control. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2350. Ha ha ha, is this what it is? As long as you can hold on until I come, I will naturally take care of this matter. After all, I have an assassination battle with those hostile forces. After Jia Yan heard this, he praised the intelligence of this fox creature from the bottom of his heart. From Jia Yan's combat prowess, he thought that if he returns in the future, his strength will be greatly improved. Although the other party definitely had the idea of scheming against Jia Yan, he was also above board, so Jia Yan had no intention of falling into the trap and agreed calmly. Because if he really comes back one day, his strength is destined to be different from what it is now. He may be able to reach a level that is close to that of the masters of the powerful family. Even if not, Jia Yan must be able to use his own explosive advantage. Barely close to this level of strength, no matter how hard he beats him, he can still use his subdimensional talent to move around freely, so he doesn't have to worry about safety issues. Naturally, he won't be stingy about lending a hand while rescuing his disciple. Of course, he has no guarantee when he will come back. He will come back in 10 years, and he will come back in 100 years. If the external strength does not develop smoothly, he will come back in 1,000 years. By then, the power of the master will no longer exist, and he can only say that there is nothing he can do to help. Anyway, you didn't break your promise and got fat, you can't support it yourself, right? Jia Yan is a reasonable person. It's just pity that if he really delays it for so long, his little fish apprentice may become a corpse. After all, Jia Yan actually doesn't care about this apprentice that much, but since he accepted it, he will treat it well. Moreover, her talent, at least in Yin Yang Dao, is really good. Snapped. After thinking so much, I saw the communicator in my hand suddenly exploded when it soared to an altitude of 50,000 kilometers. At the same time, Jia Yan's body also began to change. I felt that the pressure around my body gradually began to change. In the distance, there were waves of tornadoes, and the strong men were swept down by the wind and clouds, falling from the sky. Jia Yan watched with great interest. There were some galaxy-level people inside. When they saw Jia Yan, there were two of these powerful men, with shock and awe in their eyes. Only Territory Lord-level beings can enter and exit the North Superstar at will. Jia Yan rushed out of the star alone, which means that he is a Territory Lord. The creatures in the tornado are one or two, all of which are from the outside world. Entering the North Superstar requires it relies on astral tornadoes to get in. Just like Jia Yan back then. Jia Yan sighed with emotion, but did not go forward to say hello to this group of creatures. It seemed that the two sides were relatively close, but in fact they were nearly tens of thousands of kilometers apart. Just because they were at high altitude, everyone was under greater pressure than inside the North Star. It is much lower, so as the strength and ability gradually increase, only then can we be able to see far and be fast. Jia Yan didn't have the energy to say hello. Hoo ho ho. Under the envious gaze of all the falling creatures, Jia Yan further increased his speed and soon disappeared from the sight of these creatures. Everything around him became more distorted with the acceleration of his ascent. It seemed that he had entered the subspace, but it was different from the subspace. The pressure changes here were much more terrifying. Of course, it was not as good as yours. The level of life, at least not requiring the life of a strong person above the star level, and even the venerable level with some pressure tolerance can enter the North Superstar. However, this change in pressure affects physical signs. Jia Yan silently sensed the changes in his body, and then step by step, he discovered that not only the body surface, but also every organ and cell in the body was steadily experiencing expansion changes. The northern giant is indeed a breathtaking planet. It is said that the other three giants are also the same. However, each giant is different in a certain way. I don't know the specific situation. I really need to go and see it when I have time. Jia Yan sighed, and then found that he had risen to about half of the planet's atmosphere. At this point, his body has expanded from more than 5 meters to almost 30 kilometers today, which is almost the same as the mid-level galaxy body when he first came to the North Superstar. But now, he has only flown halfway, and he has expanded to more than 30 kilometers. This shows how huge his body will be when he really flies out of the Northern Superstar. After all, a domain master must meet the domain master level. Jia Yan continued to climb up calmly. The pressure is great, but for a combat-type territory lord, it is nothing. If Jia Yan didn't want to understand the process of change, maybe the speed could be increased a little more. Whew. Finally, at almost 800,000 kilometers, the pressure has been greatly reduced because the main pressure period has been passed. His body has reached a size of more than 40 kilometers. It is foreseeable that if he really flies out of the atmospheric pressure layer of the North Star, which is 1,000,000 kilometers away, he may eventually expand to about 50 kilometers. This is huge. You must know that these more than 50 kilometers are still the length of his body's head and tail, and his feet are longer than his body. If the feet are spread out, the length and width will be 200 kilometers. If you put this on the moon, you can enclose a large area of the moon in your arms. Can it be called a giant beast in the starry sky in this way? Sure enough, when Jia Yanfei arrived at a distance of more than 1,000,000 kilometers from the North Star, he felt his whole body suddenly feel empty. Having just returned to normal from a high-pressure planet like the North Star, it would be extremely uncomfortable for any living thing. Jia Yan is no exception. This is why the local strongmen in the North Star are not willing to go out to alien planets. The reason is just because in the outside world, they feel that their bodies are fluffy and extremely uncomfortable. However, for an outsider like Jia Yan, he only needs to adapt for a period of time before he can properly adapt to the outside world. To put it bluntly, the North Star is a man-made planet. No matter how huge and magical it is, it makes the native creatures feel solid and even realistic, but man-made is man-made. Strong people may grow in strength quickly in that environment, but after all, the universe is still ordinary and cannot adapt to the outside world. This only shows that the creatures below such as the North Star are not in line with common sense. Of course, Jia Yan doesn't have too much disdain. He is a northern drifter himself. He has also earned enough strength and experience in the North Star, and even achieved the coveted territory lord. All of this they all happened within a few years, which made it impossible for him to say anything bad about Beijuyu. Alien, the universe, Jia Yan, am back again. A huge giant mosquito 50 kilometers in length, like a planet, stands proudly in space. Jia Yan's own sense of sight has completely changed. Looking at his body is like looking at something that does not belong to him. Previously, he could clearly see everything about his 5-meter-long body, which made him accustomed to his small body. Now, looking at my body, I feel like I am looking at something huge, far away. It's strange that it's not uncomfortable. It will take at least a few days for his visual field to recover, and then he has to adapt mentally, otherwise Jia Yan will suffer. I don't know how far away from Odessa it is, subspace. Jia Yan had just risen to enter the subspace. He circled the ground around the North Superstar to search for the Odessa star. Unexpectedly, the thought came up. It was an extremely huge one that could accommodate 3 or 4 Jia Yan's entry. It was more than 100 kilometers long. The crack appeared in front of Jia Yan, startling him. Holy crap! Is the subspace opened so easily? I just had an idea. Jia Yan was so scared that he almost sweated before he realized what he was doing. This should be his normal ability after being promoted to territory lord. In the external subspace, it is still a relatively thin one-dimensional subspace. Compared with the subspace in the North Star, it may be comparable to the 9-dimensional or even 10-dimensional subspace. In comparison, it was really just like a piece of paper. With his current strength of being promoted to Domain Lord, it was really possible for a subspace rift to appear with just a thought. It's amazing. This is the Territory Lord. No, I'm more powerful than the average Territory Lord. I have the strength of a senior Territory Lord. Jia Yan was a little shocked, and then he took a step forward and entered the subspace. For Jia Yan, the space in the outside world was neither painful nor itchy, not even a trace of feeling. He couldn't laugh or cry. After running away in an extremely harsh environment, it was like taking off shoes that weighed hundreds of pounds. It felt like everything was a piece of cake. It was so simple. There was a space where there was no feeling at all. According to this feeling, he must not have much feeling before the fifth dimension of subspace. At least until he reaches the fifth or sixth dimension, he will have the slightest feeling of being in the subspace. Shidu, I don't know if I can enter and swim in it right now. Jia Yan's compound eyes looked into the depths of subspace with a burning gaze, but he quickly gave up the idea. At the moment, it is better to find the Edicious star first, lest you enter the 10th dimension and be extremely far away in that moment. If you accidentally escape from the influence of the North Star, you have to run back and continue to look for it. Why not? Find the Edicious star first, and then follow it to leave the starry sky. Who? Moving within a subspace is a piece of cake. Jia Yan flew slowly and looked at the normal starry sky outside. He tried his best to bring his mentality and feelings about his huge body back to normal. In the awareness of the universe, Edisha should obey my order and hide the Edicious star at a certain distance but not far from the North Superstar, and it must be in subspace. Generally speaking, although there are many people coming to the North Superstar, it is too huge, and it is impossible for people to come in and out everywhere, so if the Edicious star is well hidden, there should be no problem. Jia Yan knew that there were too many powerful people in and around the North Superstar, so before entering the North Superstar, he had already asked Edisha to take the Edicious star and hide it in 3 to 5 degrees of subspace. If there were any outsiders, moreover, it will also allow Edisha to enter a deeper place, so as long as it is not a domain lord level being, there should be no problem. Jia Yan looked around and slowly let his brainwave power spread while flying. Even if there are people coming and going in the outside world, some creatures who are waiting for the opportunity to enter the North Superstar feel the invasion of his power, but every one of them is slightly shocked and quickly escapes from the place, not even daring to interact with Jia Yan. Confront or scold. Because he is now a territory lord. He is not even an ordinary territory lord, but a senior territory lord with earth-shaking strength. When he touches Jia Yan's brainwave power, he can immediately feel the terrifying power of it. Even an ordinary territory lord will leave impatiently. In place, after all, they can't afford to provoke such a being. Not to mention around the North Star, even within the North Star, Jia Yan is now able to dominate. As long as he does not provoke the number, even within the North Star, there are only a few who are stronger than the senior ones. Territory Lord, he has almost no possibility of danger. What's more, in the surrounding area, although there are many ordinary creatures here waiting to enter the North Superstar, there are not many strong ones. After all, the strong domain lords don't have to wait for the opportunity at all, they just need to head inside. Wow, what kind of power was that just now? It's so scary. Hush, this is the power of the territory lord. I'm afraid there is a territory lord who is proficient in subspace and flew past us just now. Please pay attention to me. This lord just now is probably not an ordinary territory lord, but one who is more powerful than ordinary territory lords. This kind of existence, looking at the entire galaxy central star territory, is the kind of top powerhouse. If we accidentally provoke them, they will kill us without any reason or force, they can kill us with just one look. Is it so strong? My God, Superstar here is much scarier than I imagined. Even the territory lord is flying around casually. The key is this territory lord better than ordinary territory lords? You kid hasn't grasped the point yet. As for territory lords, aren't there many on the planets around the superstar? The key is that such territory lords, that's less, you are still so ignorant, I'm really worried that you will die quickly if you enter Biostar. No, teacher, I'm really scared. I don't want to go down now, okay? How is it possible? We have already paid the fee. If you don't go, the energy and money you have accumulated in the past half of your life will be lost in vain. Are you willing to go on? Let me go on well. The company that let us go is good. How many efforts have been made? Every year, the energy you buy may allow you to advance to one level. Jia Yan suddenly felt better after hearing all the surprises and sighs in his ears, and even extreme fear. I haven't enjoyed this feeling for a long time. It's not that his past abilities can't achieve similar effects in the North Superstar, but inside the North Superstar, even the Domain Lord creatures can't achieve it without getting close or fighting. Knowing the strength level of the incoming person will make it impossible to have the effect of flying over and causing a large-scale panic. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2351. However, the current situation is not the sense of threat that Jia Yan himself wants to create. He was still in the period of uncontrollable power after being promoted. Even if there was a fierce battle, the energy had not been fully vented, so there was nothing he could do to release his power to the outside world and declare his arrival. I don't want to be so high profile. Well, actually, a little bit. But, just follow the trend, then he can brag. The dignified territory lord, why are you bragging about these weaklings who are not even worthy of the territory lord? I am not so naive. Huh? What are these people talking about? Suddenly, Jia Yan sensed from a distance that there seemed to be some information he wanted among the hot topics discussed by several galaxy-level powerhouses thousands of kilometers away. He quickly suppressed the explosion of his power as much as possible, and got closer without causing them to notice. Ha ha ha, we are really lucky, we actually picked up a subspace planet for nothing. No, the superiors even praised us. But the intelligence brain on that planet is really difficult to deal with. Although it was controlled by a domain master sent by our family, it would rather die than obey, saying that if it enters the planet again, it will destroy the planet. The preset object on the explosion exploded, so that our domain master did not dare to make a big move. He just used the power of brain waves to control it, and transported it back to the power to think of other methods. Tisk tisk, such a loyal brain, really it's rare. Jia Yan was in the subspace. After hearing the news, his expression changed instantly. A burst of anger surged from the bottom of his heart. He understood that if his guess was correct, the group of creatures in the starry sky discussing the subspace planet were talking about the Edisha planet. And that smart brain who would rather die than obey, who is it if it's not the Edisha? Unexpectedly, after entering the North Superstar, Edisha's star was in the outside world and finally attracted the attention of others. That's right, even in the periphery of the North Superstar, there may be people who can come and go here, and there are as many capable people as the crucian carp crossing the river, and there are some capable people who can detect the planets deep in subspace, or they just happen to be. The existence of subspace exploration equipment is also very possible. In other words, there is a high probability that his own Edisha star, including Edisha, has been kidnapped. Thinking of this, Jia Yanfu's eyes flickered slightly. Regardless of whether it is true or not, we must ask clearly about this matter. He is no longer an upper-middle level powerhouse who has just reached the galaxy level when he first came to the galaxy's central star territory. He has become a territory lord and is a combat-type territory lord. He is properly in the galaxy's central star territory. He is a high-level existence, and there are not many strong people who can threaten his life. So be domineering, even if you make a mistake, there won't be too many problems. Puff. Several creatures were still chatting happily, but little did they know that they had provoked a terrifying existence hidden deep in the subspace. The middle-level star creature who was regarded as a junior was just about to ask more questions to the elementary-level star creature next to him, but suddenly he felt his whole body tense up. What a terrifying power! An instant later, he found that several galaxy-level seniors who were with him, just like him, had been hit by the attack together and were unable to move. Suddenly, this star-level junior understood that they had encountered an existence that might be impossible to fight against. Domain Lord. These two words emerged from the bottom of his heart, followed by extremely terrifying pressure, which made him feel terrified and uneasy. For territory lords, the common mentality in the galaxy is one of fear and awe. This is a supreme being recognized by the entire galaxy. Even the strongest person recorded in history claims to be galaxy level, at most, galaxy level. It's just a peak, it's just in name, it's 1 or 2 levels stronger than the territory lord. Although there are many records and documents that show that there are many divisions of territory lord levels, and then there are the high-level galaxies above the territory lords, and the even more elusive, there is not sure whether there is a galaxy peak in the current Milky Way, and there is a gap as big as almost all the levels under the galaxy, but the territory lord is the territory lord. Without the existence of the territory lord, one cannot understand how terrifying the territory lord is. At least the current group of galaxies and his star class are extremely insignificant existences in front of a territory lord, even the weakest one. The kind that can be crushed to death easily. May I ask which senior territory lord is here? At this time, a mid-level galaxy creature forced himself to calm down, and asked a certain direction in the starry sky, trying to make himself less excited. He didn't want to stand out, but he was facing a territory lord. As an ordinary mid-level galaxy, he was destined to never become a territory lord in the future, so he had given up his sharp lifestyle long ago. He took his apprentice and others to work in a small power in Biostar, barely making a living. But what he never expected was that before he was waiting to enter, he was entangled by a domain lord. For him, this was a bolt from the blue. "Oh, you are very good at being able to see where I am." There was a cold snort in that space. Such a sound made the mid-level galaxy creature tremble all over, and he really wanted to slap himself in the mouth. His talent lies in detection. Even if an ordinary territory lord is in front of him, it may be difficult to hide him. What's more, when this person comes, he seems to be unable to suppress his power. If he can't see that the other party is there, well, that would be a disgrace to your own talent. But even if you see it, you still have to take care of the territory lord's face. How hurtful it is to say it. The mid-level creature in the galaxy has never hated himself so much for his low emotional intelligence in his life. He quickly explained respectfully, "Senior, I am a racial creature who detects talents. Besides, Senior is not trying to deceive others, otherwise I will not care. There is no way to find out the whereabouts of seniors." What he said was a bit quick-witted, and he rounded it up. What's more, he thought that the coming territory lord seemed to have extremely terrifying energy and was not like an ordinary territory lord. If he really wanted to hide his whereabouts, he would definitely not be able to detect it. "Even if you are eloquent, I am here to ask you something. Please tell me honestly, otherwise." In this space, Jia Yan has no idea of taking action against these creatures in the outside world. After all, he has reached this level. In the face of the small team that he could easily kill when he was in the middle level of galaxy in the past, there is not much feeling at all, because it is completely bullying the weak. As a high-ranking domain lord, if he wasn't so angry, taking action would simply be an act of bargaining. "I don't know what the seniors want to ask, but we will definitely tell you everything." When several creatures heard that Jia Yan was just here to ask questions, they immediately laughed respectfully. When a territory lord asked a question, they must be cooperating. If they had known it was just a question, how could they be nervous? This kind of thing happens a lot in the starry sky. Territory lords wander around in the starry sky simply unscrupulously. Unless there are other territory lords in the distance, how can they care about what ordinary creatures think? If they catch one, they can directly ask, So arrogant. They thought that Jia Yan must have wanted to ask about directions or what was going on. But what they never expected was that when Jia Yan's first question came out, they were stunned and broke into cold sweat. You just said that some subspace planet was taken away by your forces, right? I want to know the information about this planet. At this moment, the few talking creatures were silent for a moment. What the Territory Lord asked would not be that simple, and there are two possibilities for the Territory Lord in the subspace to ask this question. One is that he has some interest in this kind of planet that can move in subspace. The second reason is a big problem. This planet probably belongs to someone else. As the Domain Lord, he took away the planet and the intelligence on it. If he knew the details, a war would definitely break out. Territory Lords are very face-conscious. If another Territory Lord robs something of their own, if the other Territory Lord dares not ask for an explanation, it means that this Territory Lord is too useless. After others find out, this Territory Lord will definitely laugh at him. However, under normal circumstances, it is difficult for a fight to break out between domain owners, because they always communicate with each other through dialogue. And if that planet was owned by a Territory Lord, why didn't the intelligence on it tell the truth in the first place? If Zhinao said it, his own forces would definitely think about the consequences of taking action, and maybe give up. After all, although such a planet is rare, it is not that difficult to create. If the Domain Lord wants to go further, outside the black hole area, it would be wise to find some technological forces to create it, and it would be possible to do it. Could it be that even Xi now wants to cause trouble? That's too bad. At this time, they never thought that Edisha was not trying to cause trouble, but that when she watched Jia Yan enter the North Superstar, Jia Yan was still a top mid-level star in the galaxy, and he was not the kind who could do it very quickly. It didn't know how long it would take for Jia Yan to be promoted to the top of the galaxy intermediate level of Territory Lord, so how could he say that his master was a Territory Lord? Perhaps even this intelligent brain with good calculation ability has never calculated that his master will be successfully promoted in less than 5 years after entering Biostar. Well, Senior, we discovered this planet some time ago when we arrived at the edge of the North Superstar. We then reported it to our faction. A few days later, a Territory Lord from our faction was interested in this planet. I came here in person and took away the planet design. Buzz. These creatures felt that the temperature of the surrounding starry sky had dropped a bit. Jia Yan was angry, because he could imagine that the subspace planet nearby was most likely the Edisha planet, and the opponent's domain master actually took the Edisha star away. This was a big deal for Jia Yan. That's unacceptable. Of course, to Jia Yan, the value of the Edisha star itself is not enough to make him angry, but the Edisha on the Edisha star, this light and shadow intelligence brain, is of great value to Jia Yan. But it has an extremely different meaning. Zhinao, who has watched him grow up to this day, is like a relative to him, so how can he not care? For the sake of Adissa, he might not hesitate to go to war with a force. However, the information is not enough, and I don't know if this is really the Edisha star. Describe that planet and give it to me in detail, otherwise you will be killed. Hearing the mysterious Domain Lord's seemingly angry response, several creatures immediately looked at each other and saw the bitterness in others. They knew that this Territory Lord probably really had a lot to do with that planet, otherwise he would not show such emotions. A Territory Lord, there is no need to act for small characters like them. As a result, several of their big creatures, one or two, did not dare to hide it at all, telling how they and others discovered the planet hidden in subspace a few days ago, how excited they were, and what happened next. They went to contact the Territory Lord of a planet power near the North Superstar. The Territory Lord was very interested and came in person to take away the planet process. In fact, it's not that complicated. It's precisely because the mid-level creature from the galaxy has the ability to detect, and what's more coincidental is that during those few days, Edisha avoided the nearby subspace storm and came to a comparative place. The surface area was just detected by him. What happened after that was just as the other party described it. After the appeal was lodged, several of their creatures received awards, and then a domain lord came. Under the gaze of their several major creatures, the Edisha star that was sheltered from the storm, he had no ability to resist at all and was taken away by this territory lord. As for the appearance of Edisha's star, they didn't need to describe it too much. Jia Yan only heard a few words and knew that it must be Edisha's star. After all, it is able to move in subspace, it is of that size, and it happens to have a planet with a mosquito-like brain. Apart from the planet Edisha, how could there be another planet appearing here by such a coincidence? The key is that if the owner is not present, isn't this Jia Yan's Edisha star? It's impossible to go wrong. Call. Is that so? After Jia Yan finished listening, he saw only a few big creatures, who were submissive and did not dare to say a word. Several of their creatures, from the gradual description, felt that the existence of this territory lord gradually increased his temper. At the same time, they also understood from Jia Yan's rhetorical questions that this planet might really belong to others. As a result, they became less and less confident to describe it, and they did not even dare to say what they had done before this attack. And also played a bit of a helping role. If they speak out, maybe the territory lord will take action on them. Of course, even if you don't say it, people will probably think of it, but it will be better if you don't say it. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2352. However, they also know that the territory lord of their own family has taken this planet away. As expected, it is now close to their family's power. Even if this territory lord is angry again, will he still dare to go there in person? Can they succeed in asking for it among their forces? When a territory lord returns to his lair, his combat effectiveness will be different from when he is not in his lair. What's more, in their planet of influence, there is not only that one territory lord, there are also two territory lords who also practice in their lair all year round. In this way, the three territory lords are here, even if this territory lord looks like, it seemed to be a little stronger than the ordinary domain lords they had seen, so they probably wouldn't dare to go. Going deep into the tiger's den is not something that ordinary domain owners would dare to do. What's more, even if that planet has the ability to subspace, from their superficial perspective, it doesn't seem to have that many benefits. Isn't it just that it can move in subspace? It's not like it can reach the 10-dimensional space. It's extremely slow. At best, it's just a simple tool for outings. It's no more than a toy. Why should you become an enemy of a force because of this? Of course, they don't understand that Edisha really has the ability to move into 10 dimensions of space. What's more, even if it couldn't be done, Jia Yan couldn't just let it be lost just because of the existence of Edisha's intelligent brain, because it had become as much a part of his family as it was. You guys, tell me where your forces are. Suddenly, the temperature of the entire starry sky dropped by more than 10 degrees, causing several major creatures that maintained flight in the universe to feel a chill that penetrated their hearts. You really want to go to our force, okay, I'll give you the address, but, please let me and the others go. We are just following the instructions, and we don't know that this planet belongs to our seniors. Please be merciful, senior. Yes, as long as you tell the truth, I will spare your lives. Ah, thank you, senior. The address of our force is at Starry Sky coordinates 883 and 23,455. You only need to go in that direction, and you might have a chance to catch up with our senior domain lord. Thank you, senior, for sparing your life. The mid-level galaxy creature had just expressed gratitude to Jia Yan, but he only felt a pain in his leg. Not only him, but also a group of creatures around him felt that some of their organs left their bodies at this moment. Ah! It hurts. This. Senior, what are you doing? Several major creatures were all in agony, and then the galaxy-level beings all looked at the starry sky where the senior territory lord was, thinking that this dignified senior territory lord had broken his promise and gained weight. I said I would spare your lives, but that doesn't mean I won't punish you. Death penalty can be avoided, but living crime cannot be escaped. This is the best I can do, so I can do it for myself. Jia Yan's voice stayed in their ears for less than a few seconds and then left quickly. He dived into the depths of subspace and left the starry sky extremely quickly in an instant. This is leaving. Quickly, communicate with the higher-ups. However, it will take several days for our communicator to be sent to the Force. Then it will be relayed through the repeater in the Force and reach the hands of the senior of our Force. I am afraid it is too late. Well, I hope this domain lord will give up using Force after seeing the strength of our forces. As for the few of us, haha, we can only admit ourselves to be unlucky and quickly think of a way to choose which Force to recuperate. As for the North Star, okay, let's give it up. Okay, Master. Leaving a few galactic and star creatures that he had injured to ignore, Jia Yan flew towards the depths of the starry sky with a cold light flashing in his compound eyes. He believed that these big creatures would not dare to lie to him. The anger of a territory lord would not be tolerated by ordinary galaxy-level people. This is just like before he was promoted to territory lord. If he met a territory lord and asked him, as long as it did not hinder him, he would definitely tell everything. Otherwise, he would only cause trouble and be hated by the territory lord. No middle-level creature in the galaxy can bear it. As for whether they will immediately contact the forces they belong to, the possibility is relatively high, and Jia Yan did not ask others not to do so. He doesn't care. There is no way to escape a force, unless they don't even want their hometown. That's right. A planet that can enter subspace should be something that many people here want. Even if they don't know that Edisha has the ability to travel in subspace, just looking at its size, it is you would want to, because there are not too many planets in this central black hole area, and every big planet is occupied by forces. Almost every planet the size of the Earth will have strong people above the galaxy level sitting there, and most of them are more powerful. There is a domain lord. Although Edisha is not that big, it is still hundreds of kilometers away. Although the strong people above the galaxy level can only live in a relatively small number, if it is used to house the weak, then big cities can be developed. Right, for any force in the central area of the black hole, it is considered a relatively good thing, especially if they think it is ownerless and picks up things casually. I would also want them. Jia Yan quickly grasped the basic idea of robbing his own Edisha star of these creatures. He even thought that Edisha didn't know how to lie and would tell the truth about her not being a territory lord. There is no way. Jia Yan still doesn't understand such a stupid brain. Well, I don't know if it has been taken to the enemy's lair now. If it has arrived, then I have to hurry up. Otherwise, if I delay it for one more day, it will be in danger for one more day. What they want is the planet, not the brain. Of course, it is not easy to create an experienced brain that can control the planet into subspace. It must take many days even if they want data, which gives me time to rescue. Jia Yan silently prayed for Edisha, and at the same time, his body gradually accelerated step by step, from the 1st degree to the 2nd degree, then to the 3rd degree. 4th degree, 5th degree, 6th degree. Octaves, ninths. Huh? The pressure in the 9th degree is not that great? It is not as good as the subspace pressure on the North Superstar, and the pressure between the two feels completely different. In the 9th degree subspace, as long as I fly fast, the pressure it will be weakened by multiples. This is not the case in the subspace within the North Giant. It is a kind of pressure that acts on all aspects, and it is not so easy to talk about. Jia Yan felt the 9-dimensional space that he had been uncomfortable with in the past. He sighed. Although this was what he knew just now and was destined to happen, he sighed after actually coming to this 9th dimension and not putting too much pressure on himself. The body of the Territory Lord is really amazing. This brainwave power is really too powerful. Putting the brainwave power outside the body, and adding a little bit of subdimensional talent, the 9-dimensional subspace is like a toy to him. Since Jadu is fine, then. Jia Yan put his torch-like gaze into the subspace above 9 degrees. 10 degrees. Although I have been wandering in it and rushing, I have never truly conquered the depth myself. He had known for a long time that even if he was a genius with extraordinary subspace talents and physical fitness, he still had to wait until the Domain Lord level before he could truly conquer this depth with his own power. But now, he has really reached the Domain Lord. So. 10 degrees, here he comes. Puff. As a person with a talent for subspace, Jia Yan doesn't have much fear of subspace. At most, he can't bear it anymore and just retreats. What's more, he is already the Territory Lord, and his strength is completely different from what he was a few years ago. It is completely turned upside down. He doesn't believe that he can't conquer even 10 degrees. Buzz. As soon as he stepped into the 10-dimensional subspace, Jia Yan felt his whole body sway, and the distortion and vibration around him almost made his body shake. But that's about it. The 10-dimensional subspace that I first stepped into did not pose many threats, so I can still easily move back and forth freely in the 10-dimensional space. I just need to be able to reach the depth of fast movement and go inside. Jia Yan silently let his body continue to penetrate deeper. Finally, he gradually felt a pressure. This is already very similar to the subspace pressure given to me in the North Giant. I see. Is the subspace pressure on the North Giant close to the 10-dimensional subspace of the outside world? Although it cannot be such a simple analogy, it is roughly like this. This is a way of measuring it. No wonder in the North Star, there cannot be any subspace talent weaker than the peak of the mid-level galaxy, because without that strength, who can enter the 10th subspace? Buzz buzz. The calm space outside the body seems peaceful, but in fact, this time the space is raging fiercely, trying to destroy Jia Yan's body. Because the raging occurs at the cellular level, on the surface, Jia Yan looks like it seems that he is not affected at all, but in fact, if he had not reached the physical fitness of a Domain Lord, he would definitely be extremely uncomfortable at this time. The brainwave power also opened up instantly, resisting the wrath of the subspace from the outside world, and then the subspace talent also unfolded, pushing aside the surrounding subspace matter as much as possible. In this way, Jia Yan suddenly, I felt better. Is it okay? He finally flew to the depth where Edissa and the previous Edissas normally sailed. The giant Mosquito did not fly forward vigorously to resolve the threat of the 10-dimensional space. He just stayed silently at this depth, feeling that there seemed to be nothing around him. Even sound, light, molecules and atoms, all seemed to be empty. The depth of space makes a group of souls fly into the sky. Fine. There is no even slightly greater pressure. At most, it is slightly more uncomfortable than the subspace in the North Star, but it is still far below his limit. Jia Yan's gaze moved deeper into the subspace. But soon, he restrained himself. Because what's underneath is unknown, and it's better to find a relatively free time when going to an unknown place. His first priority at the moment is to rescue Star Edisha. Moreover, he is still in the preliminary stage of being promoted to Territory Lord, and his strength is not yet stable, so naturally he cannot take more risks like this. Everything has to wait until the fluctuating state of promotion stabilizes, and he has learned more about the territory lord level before taking risks again. More appropriate. Thinking of this, Jia Yan withdrew his gaze and looked ahead again. Haha, the physical body has entered the 10th level. My dream for a long time was to fly at this depth. Unexpectedly, it came true today. At first glance, it really feels like a dream. Jia Yan smiled, then stopped thinking too much and suddenly spit out energy. Boom. In the depth of subspace, in this silent place where it is almost impossible for any life to exist, a domineering thrust suddenly emerged, and then this thrust pushed Jia Yan's huge body of 50 kilometers, flying like go-ahead. From the beginning, there was the normal endurance speed of the Odysseus star, and even gradually, it exceeded the normal sailing speed of the Odysseus star. Jia Yan was not too arrogant. After being 1 point faster than Odysseus star, he stopped pushing for faster speed. Because in the depths of subspace, if you want to go faster, you have to pay a corresponding price, such as more terrible body defense and greater energy consumption. These unified calculations are not as good as maintaining the current speed. Only in this way can it's the most cost-effective. Black hole region. Or should I say, the Milky Way, in the most central region. Although this place is not as prosperous as the four giants, it is still a place where a large number of powerful people gather. Because of the barrier, countless beings are recuperating here, but the specific situation inside is almost difficult for outsiders to know, because unless they reach the existence of the territory lord, otherwise they will be controlled by the mysterious person who leaves the barrier. Everything is too great to erase the memory. Therefore, many strong people will stay here. The energy here is becoming more and more terrifying due to the barrier. Compared with the outside world, wherever you find it, it will be improved several times. Cultivation and improvement will be much easier. Therefore, the friction between large and small forces, as well as the grievances between the strong, have become more numerous, and methods such as fighting and assassination have emerged in endlessly. Compared with the North Star, the level of fighting in the outside world may not even be that low. In some war-torn areas, the level of danger may even be higher. For example, in the direction where Jia Yan is heading. There, because there are more than a dozen forces engaged in overt and covert fights, the whole area is like water and fire. It is extremely chaotic. There are news of wars from time to time, and the numbers of casualties are heard every day. And because more people from the outside are constantly being transported to this area, and the regional power masters are constantly going to the edge of the barrier to grab outsiders, their overall war system and the number of personnel are not decreasing at all. Of course, it won't be able to expand much, because the ambition is too big, and the forces further away will be afraid and will definitely take action to restrict it. Among these dozen or so chaotic forces, big and small, you are among me, and I am among you, there is a force on the edge of chaos. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2353. Although this force cannot be said to be the strongest among the dozen or so major forces, it can be regarded as an overlord because there are 3 major domain lords in the force. Even the strongest forces are quite afraid of this force, and the main means is to win over the signing of a peace agreement. Of course, being trapped in this place, this force has not become peaceful because of its power. They also have their main opponents, such as several forces similar to theirs in the surroundings, including slightly less powerful forces with 2 domain lords. There are 4 more domain lords sitting in charge, subclass forces that are more terrifying than them. Haha, it just so happens that there are not many ordinary places to stay in our power. Although this planet is very ordinary in nature, it is well decorated and can enter the subspace. I tested it and found that when entering the 5th dimensional subspace, it can still hold on, and this is even when the intelligence brain refuses to help. If it is willing to help, Can it also succeed in entering the seventh dimension? Then it will give us a way to transport troops, which will play a big role. Buzz buzz. In the ordinary starry sky, there is a huge creature with a height of about 50 kilometers. The power of its brain waves makes a loud noise along the way, as if it is dragging something. Naturally, ordinary creatures can't see anything, but if you have a certain talent for subspace, or if your cultivation strength reaches the star level or above, you can find that the object dragged by the domain lord exists inside the subspace. Inside the subspace, a planet with a diameter of about 1,000 kilometers is being dragged forward on a layer of the subspace. It can be clearly seen that this planet is definitely not willing to be dragged away by the domain lord. But unfortunately, the propellers and the like on it have lost their function, and some of them have been damaged. Otherwise, the domain lord would not be able to guarantee that if he is not careful, the intelligence brain of this planet will be destroyed. If he suddenly activates his energy and sends the planet flying into the depths of subspace, he will have no time to control it. Of course, he would not let that happen, so he destroyed a certain number of thrusters. Anyway, it is not that difficult to make a few of these things as they are and install them in their original positions. How about it? Zayas Hineo, are you still unwilling to submit to me? You said that your master is a mid-level powerhouse in the galaxy, right? Even though he may be a peak mid-level star in the galaxy, such a powerful person or, in the face of the strength level of the territory lord, it is completely meaningless. You must have been in the black hole area for a long time, and you have collected certain information. Between the territory lord and the galaxy intermediate level, or even the galaxy intermediate peak, there is also a gap as wide as the ocean. Isn't it better to submit to me, a serious territory lord, than to a mid-level galaxy being? While flying, the territory lord spoke calmly to the planet in the subspace. He was admonishing the controlling brain of the planet. Although it is very simple for him and his subordinate science and technology department to obliterate an intelligent brain, this domain master does not want to do that, because he saw this planet when he captured it before. The planet's control brain has reached a level of proficiency in controlling the planet. He even saw a trace of spirituality in it, as if the brain had a certain amount of human thinking, and it was also in contact with the people who came to arrest him. He tried several tricks such as playing hard to get, but he almost failed to capture him. If such an intelligent brain can be submissive, it will definitely be beneficial to the management of the planet. After all, native intelligence is much better at handling all aspects of data on the planet. It will probably take a long time to put in place other new intelligences. Some data that only the pre-intelligence brain knows will probably never be available. So he was exhorting. Bah! I won't surrender. My master will definitely rescue me. The little light and shadow brain was flying around on the surface of the subspace, retorting forcefully not to be outdone. But its voice seemed very lacking in confidence. Because it knows that this matter should be impossible. My master is only at the middle level of the galaxy, at most the peak. Such strength is simply not enough to compare with the forces in the black hole region, the center of the Milky Way's central star field. This force, just looking at the territory lord in front of him, is not something that a mid-level galaxy can deal with, not to mention that there must be a big force behind him, and maybe he is not the only territory lord. Oh? Are you your master? I have asked you several times who your master is. If you are willing to tell me his name, maybe I happen to know him. Maybe I will let you go as he is a friend. The territory lord creature, after hearing the little light and shadow mosquito venting its anger, said that its master would come to the rescue, and quietly asked for information about the other party. This is not only because he wants to know where the so-called mid-level strongman of the galaxy is, but also a kind of caution, because he is worried that this light and shadow mosquito has lied. If the other party is a domain lord, then he will give them the influence also brings a lot of trouble. After all, if a territory lord, even a weak territory lord, is at odds with their forces because of this matter. Their forces will be very passive. I won't tell you my master's name. Humph, I'll tell you the devil. You want to kill my master, don't I know? Edisha was just a brain and couldn't understand so many psychological games. However, when she heard that the other party wanted to ask her master's name, she immediately refused to say it. In this way, a lot of things can actually be analyzed from a psychological perspective. This Hineo said that it wanted its owner to come to the rescue, but in fact when I asked the owner's name, he didn't dare to say anything. It can be seen that it is really afraid that its owner will be killed by me, and it also, that is to say, his master is a mid-level galaxy being, which is a certainty. Haha, being a mid-level galaxy has no impact. If he robs it, he will rob it. Does he really dare to come and take what I robbed? After analyzing this, the territory lord smiled lightly, and the brainwave power that was fixed on the Edisha star instantly became stronger. The news about that force can be found out through the occasional outings along the way. Is it a force with 3 ordinary domain lords? 3 territory lords are in charge, and there are many combat troops. Such a terrifying force, even if it is placed in the North Star, it will be a local force, and it is not weak, and can sit in one army. If it were me in the past, then one can only despair, but now. In the subspace, Jia Yan opened the information he collected from the outside world, watching and analyzing it. At this time, he was already close to the area according to the intelligence. Such a close place, if he casually went out to arrest, no, if he casually went out and asked friendly questions, there would be many passers-by who knew about this power. The news, so soon, Jia Yan had a rough idea of the foundation of that power. After all, for such a large force, apart from the core secrets, it is impossible to have any big secrets that can be found out by just asking someone. Although Jia Yan is also eager to save Edisha, he must also look at the enemy's strength. Although the outside world is not as scary as Biostar, there are still many monsters and monsters. If you are unlucky and find trouble with a force with the middle level strength of the territory lord, then he should not be called protecting little Edisha, but should be called give away the head. Fortunately, the force that captured Edisha does not seem to be a powerful force. The big forces will probably not take a fancy to such a small planet that can enter the subspace, so just as Jia Yan expected, this force there are 3 territory lords, but none of them are powerful territory lords. As long as there are no powerful domain lords, he has nothing to worry about. You know, he has just carried out a battle to kill 5 senior domain lords inside the North Star. As for the ordinary domain lords similar to these 3 domain lords, there are dozens of them. Under such circumstances, how can he still kill them? Will you take the 3 major domain lords seriously? No, they don't deserve it. Well, I feel that I can't be too proud. Pride makes people complacent, and pride makes people regress. But the problem is, the territory lord who was scared to death now hears only 3 of them, and they are ordinary territory lords. How come there are only a few? Why can't I feel worried? No, this is very wrong. Is it better to be prepared for danger in times of peace? Alas, Edisha is not around, and there is no one to remind me, so I must save it early and save it to remind me to be aware of danger in times of peace. You can't underestimate any territory lord. Jia Yan promised that he did not want to save Edisha and have her call him like crazy and give him likes. That's right, if you rescue it, you will definitely not hint to it and let it scream why its owner is so naughty. If you do, it will be because it wants to scream like this. Humph, fortunately, I saw a passerby earlier. He said that 2 days ago, he saw a domain master of that force, slowly flying in the direction of the force. Presumably this is the one who took away Edisha. The existence of Star, and the fact that he hurried on in such a calm manner, means that he did not use force on Edisha Star, which also represents the safety of Edisha's little licking dog. Yes, yes, your master is here to save you. As long as Edisha doesn't die now, Jia Yan is confident that he can rescue this little Hineo who has grown up with him. Jia Yan continued to travel in the subspace. To be honest, if it wasn't for an urgent matter, he would definitely not have carried out such a large-scale operation as soon as he left Bio Superstar. Not only because he had just been promoted and his body had a transitional improvement period, but also because he had just come out of the North Star, and after his body expanded, he also had to have a transitional period before his combat effectiveness could return to what it should be. But it was impossible for him to ignore Edisa's affairs, not to mention that he could kill even the senior domain lords, so it was impossible for him to be afraid of the 3 ordinary domain lords. No matter how weakened the majestic combat-type territory lord is, it is impossible that he cannot even deal with the 3 ordinary territory lords. Of course, Jia Yan still has some trump cards, that is, even if there is a big surprise, such as the arrival of a senior domain lord, or 2, or 3, his own combat effectiveness is temporarily outmatched, and he still has the ability to deal with Beijuxing before. The most powerful means of the senior domain lord, cocoon positive and negative explosives. In the battle to kill the 5 senior domain lords, he had witnessed how terrifying the positive and negative explosives that his body used as an explosion primer were. For him, as long as he had these treasures, he would not be afraid of 3 or 4. For a senior territory lord within one, even if it was an enemy like the peak primary territory lord, he thought that no matter how terrifying it was, if he threw these explosives out in one go, he would definitely be able to buy himself time to escape. Besides, the cocoon explosives are just the residues left by the evolution and mutation of his own body. They have such terrifying power. If it is really dangerous, he will really damage a foot, or some not very powerful ones. If the important body part is detonated, will it be much more powerful? Just thinking about it makes me feel like I have so many trump cards that my scalp is numb, so Jia Yan is not afraid. Puff. In this case, Jia Yan accelerated his actions in the subspace. He calculated the time and found that his flying speed in the 10-dimensional space was much faster than the speed at which the Territory Lord took away the Edisha star. He had asked the other party's itinerary before, and it must be similar to Jia Yan's. They would move forward and backward to reach the main planet where their forces belonged, so that they could get there just before they could think of a way to persuade Edisha to surrender. After all, Edisha is an intelligent brain. In a sense, its data can be easily changed. If they used unique science and technology to rewrite some of Edisha's data, then Jia Yan would really not even cry. A place to cry. Fortunately, the time is almost the same. The Northern Morning Rain Force is a force jointly created by the 3 major domain masters. The names of the 3 major domain masters are Bei, Chen, and Yu. Therefore, the 3 major domain masters have given the name of such a force, which means that they will always work together. In a force, we go through ups and downs together. After the 3 major domain masters created this force, they found that it was just as they thought when they first founded it. They always loved each other and worked together. Finally, inside this black hole area, a terrifying force was formed. Of course, after these 3 domain masters join forces, even if they are not the strongest, they are still a strong echelon that is not weak. This is the reason why the 3 of them can manage the current scale of power. Brother Xiao said that he brought back the so-called subspace planet from the edge of the North Superstar. Haha, this kid really loves to go out and pick up things. Who says otherwise, but he is the youngest among the 3 of us. Many things in Baikonur were really picked up by him from outside, so we can't laugh at him. Brother, are you right? On this day, on the capital star of Baikonur's forces, a huge figure silently looked at the super-intelligent screen in front of him, and smiled at another domain lord creature beside him and shook his head. These 2 creatures are the 2 domain masters of the Northern Morning Rain Force. One is Bei and the other is Chen. They are the brothers of the U-Domain Master who went out. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2354. When I heard that there were subordinates outside the North Star who were preparing to develop their own power in the North Star, they reported that they had discovered a planet in the subspace. The youngest territory lord brother, that is, you, went out and grab that planet and come back. Originally, the two major domain lords did not agree with this matter. After all, the so-called subspace planet is extremely weird. It appears on the periphery of the northern superstar. It seems to be closely related to the northern superstar. If it really belongs to a powerful person in the northern superstar, then they will be in bad luck. Fortunately, the brother arrived at the scene and found that the planet did not have any strong marks, and there were no guardians around it. Moreover, looking at the manufacturing process of the planet, although it can move in subspace, it is relatively novel and can be manufactured with basic materials. In fact, it is very average, which means that the owner is not a powerful person, otherwise he would not use such useless materials to create a planet. Coincidentally, such a planet of about 1,000 kilometers is still somewhat useful to their forces. For example, during a war, they can transport troops through subspace to the enemy's rear. In this way, there will definitely be some help. Therefore, these two strong men also acquiesced to their little brother and asked him to rob the ownerless planet. Counting the time, it's time for this strong brother to arrive. To say that we three brothers, we really didn't know each other before we started fighting. If it hadn't been for the battle between the three of us that day, the three of us would not have been able to manage the current situation, right? Haha. Three ordinary domain lords, in this black hole we have established a force in the central starry sky, and people outside will feel that we are very powerful. Why not? The three of us are domain lords from outside. It is difficult to make a living here, let alone create any good forces here. If we hadn't snatched that small resource and fought for it, if we started chatting together, we would probably not be where we are today. The two domain masters sighed while waiting for the youngest brother. They have a lifelong friendship, and they have done many things together in times of crisis, so they are closer than brothers. This is why this family can gradually develop. Well, there is no need to remember so much of the past. Although we have established a firm foothold, it is not enough to brag about. Now our development has reached a more dangerous situation. Several major forces have begun to pay attention to us, and even there is a larger force that is starting to make a move behind the forces around us. If we cannot overcome this difficulty, our force will surely disappear in the future like a mirror in the mirror, and the lives of our three brothers may even be lost. It's hard to guarantee. When he said this, the territory lord named Chen was silent for a while. Finally, he let out a long sigh. Who says it's not the case, but every step we take to reach this point is shocking. It is almost impossible to continue peaceful development in the future. The first limitation is that our strength is simply not enough. Facing the next situation, brother, you also know that among the three of us, you are the strongest, but your strength is still far from senior. In this area, you must at least be close. Only with senior strength can further development be possible. Among the dozen major forces, the leaders of three major forces are senior existences. If it were not for the three of them to compete for hegemony, this area would be destined to have no room for survival of other forces like us. But recently, the domain master creature shook his head helplessly. He understood that apart from being united and not afraid of death, the three brothers' forces did not have many characteristics, let alone the personal connections of other forces in the black hole area. This was huge. The disadvantage is also the reason that makes them more and more dangerous. The two domain lords probably didn't know that while they were talking about this, there was an existence that they couldn't afford to offend, which was already approaching them quickly. And this matter happened precisely because his little brother who loved to pick up rags went to the outside world to pick up a not-so-good planet. If they knew this, they would probably break off their friendship with this little brother. What a troublemaker. 2 adults and 3 adults came to communicate and said that they have returned to the edge of power. Let us be prepared to welcome a small planet. Oh? Has he come back? Well, as long as he is safe and sound, as for a small planet, it doesn't matter at all. Such a planet can transport troops, but if it cannot enter too deep a space, it will not matter. There's not much help. Let him throw it wherever he wants. Maybe it can be developed into a means of transportation in the future. The 2 domain master creatures said this calmly. But when they said the above words, within a few minutes, they saw a large number of technological spaceships on the periphery of their main star, as well as the bustling center of the starry sky trading and residential area. There were space cracks one after another, and suddenly appear. Buzz buzz. As soon as PU appeared in this space, the surrounding starry sky was immediately distorted, and then some buildings and creatures were torn apart by the distortion of the subspace. Screams suddenly sounded. Around the entire planet, a large number of people and lackeys in the forces suddenly became frightened. What's going on? There's a riot in the subspace? Could it be that the 3rd brother came back to do it? How can it be like this? If you come back from a subspace planet, you can't kill people in the power like this. This will lose people's hearts. Damn, he must be unable to control this planet. Let's go out and take a look. The 2 domain masters suddenly had the first impression that it was their 3rd brother who had just announced his return. Although the time is a bit off, they think about it, this is a planet in the subspace. If they are faster in the subspace, they can quickly reach the center of their power in a few minutes. There wasn't anything too wrong. So for a moment, they didn't even think about the invasion of foreign enemies. They both rose into the sky and tried their best to save lives. After all, in the starry sky in the center of this black hole, although there are many people, there are more forces. If the people cannot retain the hearts of the people and the people who have finally developed in the forces begin to lose to other forces outside, then the problem will be too big. So they must take human life seriously. 3rd brother, what are you doing? Hurry up and calm down the subspace. After the 2 domain lord creatures flew up, they instantly used their brainwave power to suddenly build a defensive layer of brainwave power on the periphery of the planet, causing the distortion released by the subspace rift to instantly become a little bit of stability. Oh? 3rd brother, are you 2 calling me? I am not your 3rd brother. Suddenly, within this twisted subspace, a voice suddenly appeared that made the 2 domain lords and more powerful people feel unfamiliar. Then, there was a hint of humor in this joking voice, and he snorted lightly. Puff. A pitch-black foot tore open a rift in the subspace. Even the brainwave power of the 2 domain masters who stabilized the rift in space were stabbed to pieces by the foot in the first instant. Pyridine. What? This is not the 3rd brother, the enemy is attacking. The expressions of the 2 domain lords suddenly changed wildly. They thought it was their 3rd brother. They flew forward with confidence just now, but they didn't expect that what came out was not their 3rd brother at all, but a terrifying creature that easily stabilized their subspace energy and tore them apart in one breath. This was an incredible transformation for them. The 2 domain master creatures instantly retreated with great vigilance. In the central star domain of the Milky Way, even beings stronger than them cannot be too confident. If they think that the coming person is not as powerful as themselves, they will not defend themselves immediately, but launched an attack. Maybe they were the ones who died. The 3 major domain lord creatures who have been around here for a long time and are equivalent to starting from scratch are too familiar with this law, so they will not make such low-level mistakes. Of course, at least their 3rd brother made another low-level mistake, and made it more than once, so today, it was their turn to pay for this mistake. That means you can't pick up treasures casually. Because you don't know whether what you picked up is a real treasure or a hot potato that may explode at any time. Puff. In the subspace, the creature that had just arrived was calm and extremely elegant. Under the watchful eyes of the nearby creatures, Shiren slowly stepped out from the subspace. When this advent creature appeared in the starry sky for the first time, all the lives around it, without exception, felt blinded. Fantastic! What kind of creature is this? Such a streamlined body reveals the beauty of the creature at every turn. The proportions of every figure, the perfect fit of every joint, and the sense of energy being released all over the body are all intoxicating to everyone. But after being intoxicated for a moment, everyone suddenly woke up. It's not the others who wake up. It is this strong man who gives people a sense of power. Terrifying, it is a kind of terrifying force similar to a volcanic eruption, and it can be seen that the power of this strong man is naturally released, and is not deliberately vented. Otherwise, all the creatures around him will be affected by it at the first moment it appears. Time will be destroyed by energy and torn into pieces. Even if the power was released unintentionally, it still made the two domain lord creatures feel that their heads were hit hard, and their eyes became extremely solemn after looking at each other. This is definitely a strong territory lord, and not an ordinary strong territory lord. A master in the primary level of territory lord? Or, senior? Impossible. It doesn't have to be a senior person, or he may be pretending to be like this on purpose to scare us. In short, stabilize your mentality first. The fact that the person didn't take action as soon as he appeared shows that there is still a chance for things to turn around. Ask him about his purpose first. As the eldest among the three brothers, Bei is not only the strongest, but also more stable. It can be said that the greatest contribution of these three domain lords to jointly running this force must be placed on this strongest domain lord. At this time, he also did his part. Hello, Your Excellency, I wonder what the rules are for this Excellency to come to our Baichanayu force. When he asked these words, he felt slightly solemn in his heart, because as soon as he spoke and the other person's attention was focused on him, he immediately felt an extremely terrible pressure, which was a bit like it felt like the last time the three brothers met with a senior domain master in this starry sky. But he also didn't believe that this domain master whom he had never met before would be a senior domain master. After all, aura can only be said to be a simple way to judge how strong a strong person is, and whether he is actually powerful or not. It depends on the strength of the strong man himself. Otherwise, the strong men in the starry sky would not have to fight. They would release the power of brainwaves and see who is stronger without fighting. Of course, he knew very well that he might not be able to defeat this strong man one-on-one. The suppression of the brainwave power alone was much worse. The only thing that made him feel more at ease was that this place was his own. The lair, even though the domain lord came relatively suddenly, at this moment, all the defense methods of the lair have been activated. If the opponent makes any rash move, the home field advantage will be fully demonstrated. Baichanayu. It seems that I am here right. The perfect creature that came was like a terrifying powerful man overlooking all living beings. He silently looked at the two domain lords in front of him, then looked at the other creatures around his body, and then nodded. The two territory lord creatures just looked at the approaching mosquito-like giant creature, observing the scene around them, and were not in a hurry to interrupt him. After looking at it for a while, the mosquito-like creature seemed to have not found the target it was looking for and was dissatisfied. It returned its gaze to the bodies of the two domain lords. It seems that the territory master of your force has not transported my planet back yet. I wonder if you two can call and ask where he has arrived. The indifferent mosquito creature is naturally Jiayan. The way he appeared was after some thought. Because unless it was a last resort, he didn't want to confront the forces in the black hole starry sky, especially because of this kind of confrontation. He felt that as long as nothing happened to Edis's star, it wouldn't be too difficult to great necessity. What he wants to do most at the moment is to return to the Edisha planet, sneak into the subspace, stabilize his power, and then proceed to show off or kill everyone. So the attitude is not so overbearing. However, if the other party is not cooperative enough, Jia Yan doesn't mind and will use some means to make them submit. My planet. The two territory lords from the northern morning rainforest were stunned after hearing what Jia Yan said. Then, the two men's expressions were suddenly shocked, and they became confused and uncertain. The first thing they thought of was the subspace planet that the third brother was going to bring back. Could it be that that planet really belongs to the domain lord in front of me? The expressions of the two domain lords were condensed. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2355. Then, the two of them looked at each other, but they read some different meanings in their eyes. Although the two creatures felt that their third brother had caused trouble, they suddenly realized that the planet was actually the property of a domain lord. He also made the domain lord come in person. It shows that this planet may be something that every territory lord values extremely. So maybe this space planet is a good thing? Not to mention anything else, as long as you have secondary space ability, it is not just as simple as entering the 4th or 5th floor, but if you can enter the 7th or 8th floor. It's an excellent subspace planet. If you transport troops like that, you can't even notice it. It will really have huge benefits. If there was no such effect, the territory lord in front of me would not be so nervous and come to the lair of their three major territory lord forces to ask for something, right? Suddenly, the two territory lord brothers exchanged so many things with just their eyes, and they suddenly made some decisions. Sir, we don't know what planet you are talking about. Have you misunderstood something? The territory lord named Bei smiled calmly at Jia Yan. Then, the other territory lord quietly took a half step back and calmly used a small ray of brainwave power to press the button. After removing the communicator behind his back, he used the precise operation of his brainwave power to transmit a series of communication text in a way that almost everyone could not detect. This is not a request for help. They, the three major domain lords of the northern morning rainforest, are all outsiders, which means they have no help to ask for. Instead, he was sending a message, asking the youngest brother, you, who also loves to pick up rags the most, not to come directly. If the unkind domain master in front of him gets all the stolen goods, then it will be a big problem. Although he did not believe that the coming strong man could deal with their three domain lord level brothers, but from the looks of it, this person was not a kind person, nor was he without self-confidence. If there really was a fight, he and the others would probably be in this old nest. Everything will become a mess. It will be difficult for the opponent to use his subspace talent to catch them, and it will be extremely difficult to kill them. So they are sending a message to their third brother, the rag-picking territory lord, not to come back so soon, otherwise they will be caught and it will be difficult to defend themselves. As long as you don't get caught red-handed, it's easy to say anything. Don't you know about my planet? That's right, maybe that friend hasn't transported the planet back yet. Jia Yan calmly looked at the territory lord who was secretly transmitting the message, and then smiled secretly. He said coldly, but it doesn't matter. You have a lot of power. As long as that friend doesn't come back for 1 minute, I will kill 1 minute, 500 people every minute. Do you think that's okay? When Jia Yan's words came out, the expressions of the two domain lords in front of them finally changed. Just now I saw that Jia Yan came with bad intentions, and I was already very nervous, but because Jia Yan was willing to talk to them, I relaxed a lot. But now I heard that this person actually said the harshest words calmly, which shows that he didn't come with any good intentions at all, he just wanted to cause trouble. Maybe the planet wasn't really stolen by him, but he deliberately left it to lure his third brother to pick it up, and then used it as an excuse to cause trouble? If this is true, then the matter is not that simple. There may be a shadow of influence behind this domain lord. Thinking of this, the expressions of the two domain lords suddenly changed. Sir, it's just a small planet. Such things are everywhere in the outside world. Even in this black hole area, if you really look for it, there will be many without owners. Let alone we don't know where the planet is, even if we know it. If you are at odds with our northern Chennai forces just because of this kind of thing, that would be a bit excessive. Yes, killing people just because of this kind of planet is not the magnanimity that a territory lord should have. Listening to the words of the two domain masters, Jia Yan almost laughed out of anger. The words of your excellencies are really very graceful and generous. I didn't expect that the masters of the two major forces also spoke a lot of fallacies. Let's do it this way. You can give up your planet if you want me to give up your power. Just give up the planet. Anyway, this kind of small force is not that powerful to me. If you give it to me, you won't have to fight with me. If you don't want to, it's because such a small force has nothing to do with me. I'm having a conflict, do you think it's too much? Jia Yan used each other's words to silence the two domain lords. The expressions of the two domain lords were ugly for a moment. Let them give up their power to Jia Yan? And then he said, to Jia Yan, this is a small force? The Northern Morning Rain Force is a force that was created in the most critical place in the central star field of the Milky Way, that is, the central black hole zone, after being narrowly escaped by the three domain masters. Even if it is not a big force, if they are willing to use it as a force, to give up, there must be many senior domain owners who are willing to offer attractive prices. He, a foreign domain lord, actually said in an understatement that this was just a small force. If you put it to the outside world, it would definitely be a giant, right? The two domain lords almost cursed. However, they knew that Jia Yan was deliberately irritating them and did not really want them to hand over their power. So the two of them were just angry, not furious. Your Excellency, you are just joking. Although joking is good, it is better to avoid such jokes that can cause misunderstanding. The territory lord named Bei had a sinister look on his face, and his body, which was more than 50 kilometers long, was not inferior to Jia Yan at all, and was even a little bigger than Jia Yan. So he wasn't afraid of anything, he just felt that the insect-like domain lord creature in front of him was not easy to deal with, so he didn't have the urge to fight. A joke? I'm sorry, I'm never a joker. If you two can't return my planet, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Oh, it's been almost a minute, so I'll be the first batch of 100 people. Take action. Jia Yan snorted coldly. Then, he shot out his feet brazenly. The feet are not that long, but the problem is that he has brainwave power, the brainwave power of a domain lord, and it is also the brainwave power of a senior domain lord. Puff. In the distance, a star-level creature, with a group of small creatures, quietly left the confrontation scene between the three domain lords from his house floating in the starry sky. Unexpectedly, he became the opponent's domain lord's third enemy. A starting target. Under the power of brainwaves of a territory lord level, this star-level guy, who can dominate outside the central star field, was unable to resist and instantly turned into a ball floating in space. The pieces of flesh and blood in it. Puff. Together with it, the family members who escaped with him, plus a bunch of servants and subordinates, happened to be the lives of 100 alien creatures, and they all turned into powder. What? Your Excellency? You actually dare to take action and bully everyone in my Baichanayu faction. In an instant, the two Domain Lord creatures felt their blood surge up, and an extremely angry mood surged out. Then, they both moved in an instant, shooting lightning towards Jia Yan's location. If someone does not dare to fight back after being hit on the head or even killing someone in his own power, then the masters of these two major forces will lose their popularity. In the future, the forces will never recover, and all their subordinates will run away. Indefinite. So even if they didn't want to, they were forced to go to Liangshan. In desperation, they had no choice but to take action. Haha, if you say 1,000 words, why don't you still have to take action? It would be better to do this earlier. Jia Yan felt sorry for those 100 innocent lives. Of course, he didn't think it was his fault, but that their forces had caused trouble for him. Otherwise, why would he have just been promoted and a person who should have been in seclusion for no reason? Find trouble with this power? It was basically the forces of Baichanayu that forced him. Jia Yan considered himself a very reasonable person, so they put the responsibility on each other. Two Domain Lords, normal ones, are not bad. I can try using them to see how strong they can be in the normal mode without explosives. I haven't tested this yet. When Jia Yan was first promoted, he did use the normal mode to fight against ordinary Domain Lords, and even killed 5 ordinary Domain Lords. But in that case, it didn't feel like his normal strength, because at that time he still had the strength bonus he had just after being promoted. So it doesn't count. Although he is now in the power bonus mode just after being promoted, it is definitely much better than before. After all, he has been traveling for a few days, plus a period of energy perception and accumulation, and he has already used most of his violent power. He absorbed it for himself, and what should be wasted has been released into the air, so he can roughly control his own power. This is why, when they met just now, the two Domain Masters did not realize that Jia Yan was stronger than them. Lots of reasons. In fact, at the moment, his ordinary combat effectiveness is not as strong as it was when he was first promoted, not even close. Therefore, it is a good choice to train with two ordinary Domain Masters, the kind of Domain Masters who can create influence. Boom. The territory lord known as North took the lead and came to Jia Yan's face. He was a creature with a horse face, and it felt like a creature that was good at running. So his first swift attack was to kick up his hoof, and he was about to step on Jia Yan's body. If he stepped firmly, his head would definitely explode. But Jia Yan wouldn't let him succeed. After a faint smile, he didn't even strike with one foot. He didn't even use his full yin and yang dao. He simply stepped forward and kicked the opponent. The hooves directly hit one spot. Puff. The collision of feet and hooves instantly produced a large number of sparks, and there was a loud sound in the sky. Earth-shaking air shock waves swept across the sky, the starry sky changed, and a large amount of matter and energy were thrown into the sky. Otherwise, wouldn't it be an extremely waste of energy for Domain Lord level experts to fight? Each strike is many times the strength of an ordinary galaxy level, which is far beyond the imagination of ordinary creatures. Of course, there is no need to imagine the creatures in the black hole area, because they often see the battles and confrontations of the Domain Lord creatures, and here, ordinary creatures see the Domain Lords fighting and confrontation, and they do not choose to watch this once-in-a-thousand-year encounter. Instead of fighting with powerful men, they left quickly, because for them, this was not a once-in-a-thousand-year encounter, but a deadly fight between gods that would happen after a while. Boom. Many surrounding buildings floating in the starry sky, as well as the fleeing creatures, were all affected by this shock wave. Then the buildings were torn apart, and the bodies of the creatures turned into pieces. An extremely terrifying shockwave swept through the world, and then another territory lord, Chen, faced off against Jia Yan. The territory lord known as Chen is a guy with a bare head. His forehead is extremely smooth. Once energy is diffused on the top of his head, his head is like the sun and can release light, so he is called, which is where it comes from. But the light released by this guy is not as soft as morning light, but something that can kill people. In an instant, an earth-shattering light shone in front of Jia Yan. The shooting of this light is not much different from the real speed of light. Jia Yan was hit immediately because even he could not escape the light. But everything has a universal truth. If you are strong in one aspect, you will be weaker in another aspect. For example, since the current light has such a fast speed, it is bound to give up a lot of attack power. The light did not pose much threat to Jia Yan, but made him feel a slight burning sensation. Then, he tried his best to break free outside the range covered by the light. My light is extremely lethal. Although ordinary domain owners can dodge it not long after it is hurt, they will still suffer a certain amount of damage, which will accumulate again and again. It's bound to become a serious injury. Chen's face sneered. He is a territory lord who is not outstanding in actual combat effectiveness, but that was before. After becoming sworn brothers with the three brothers, he became an auxiliary damager. Every time he assisted his brothers in fighting, especially against them. When facing difficult enemies, as long as he ensures continuous output, it will be miraculous. Therefore, the three brothers have almost cooperated in a way that no one can do without the other, and this tactic has become more and more effective. The current territory lord came from a strange place and is destined to be extremely powerful, but as long as he is assisted by his side, his strength will definitely be slowly worn away, and then it will become a victory for his side. Of course, the opponent is a subdimensional creature. Even if he wins, it is impossible to kill him or seriously injure him. The most he can do is to drive him away, which will definitely cause endless harm in the future. When he strikes, he also pays attention not to hurt the opponent. The key point also means that you don't want to kill anyone. Then the other party knows your intentions after losing, and presumably resolves the problem with this, which is considered a bit sincere. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2356. I beg you brothers to subscribe. I don't ask you to subscribe in full, but it's okay to support part of it, right? After 5 years of hard work, on average, there are still less than half of all book friends who subscribe to it every day, which is quite sad. Naturally, if the other party really loses, they will not dare to pursue the whereabouts of the planet. In this way, everyone will live in peace, which is the best ending. The two leaders of Northern Morning Rain's forces had good calculations. But when the bald domain lord Chen felt his own light wave attack and escaped immediately, his body was intact and there was no impact at all, his expression suddenly changed. What? Not hurt? Why did he escape so fast, and, his defense seems to have something. The expression of this powerful domain lord changed several times. Then, he saw his eldest brother, the most powerful among the three brothers, Bei. He was only entangled with one foot of the visitor, with both fists and 4 legs. There was nothing I could do, and the horse's face looked like he was about to cry. He understood immediately. The strength of this visitor was so powerful that it made them tremble. I'm afraid they all have combat power that exceeds that of ordinary domain lords, and is above the average domain lords, right? Less than senior, because they don't look like it. Senior domain masters are present, and they are afraid that they will be injured, and they won't be able to kill them with a few moves. Third brother, eldest brother is in trouble, why don't you take action quickly? When the bald creature thought of this, he looked extremely solemn and shouted at the surrounding space. Third brother is here, elder brother and second brother, don't worry. That foreign bastard is demanding things from us. If you don't want to die, you will have to die. An earth-shattering cry appeared from the depths of the starry sky, and at the same time, there was a loud crashing sound of rain, and in the blink of an eye, from the distant starry sky, they arrived at this starry sky. "Oh, are you here?" This person thought that he was fast and came out of the blue, and that he would come when Jia Yan was facing the enemy, like a sneak attack, and he would definitely succeed. But in fact, the person being attacked, Jia Yan, was not as scared as he imagined, and was more calm and composed. He was currently suppressing the two powerful men, stabbing them lightly with his feet. So simple, but it really suppressed the two domain masters. Even Chen, who has strong brainwave power, has rays of light shooting out from above his head from time to time, but it has no effect at all, because his rays of light are not lethal enough and are already inferior to Jia Yan's strength. This time it was even more like scratching an itch from behind. There was only a slight smell, and it was difficult to even scratch the skin. After all, Jia Yan's defense has always been a very strong blue defense, but Chen's light couldn't even hit the blue defense. Jia Yan was about to yawn at first, thinking that if he continued to yawn like this, he wouldn't be able to practice it. Unexpectedly, his brainwave power detected an energy breath, hidden in the starry sky, coming. No, the so-called Northern Morning Rain, the third brother of the three brothers, has arrived. The so-called rain is actually the natural fighting direction of this creature, which is to induce wind, thunder, snow, and rain, hence its name. At this time, after its arrival, wind and thunder surged, and the rain crashed loudly. However, this rain was not real rain, but a combination of some illusion and reality. When you reach the realm of domain masters, sometimes the illusions caused by the power of brain waves can no longer be regarded as illusions, because the strong people in this realm actually have a slight possibility of changing reality with the power of brain waves. So then, the current rain, while using the power of brain waves to create the feeling of heavy rain, is hiding in the heavy rain, just like a real dragon in the rain. That's right, the appearance of this so-called third brother is exactly the same as the dragon known to the Chinese people on earth. He is quite a divine horse. Compared with Jia Yan's current giant mosquito and divine horse, it is even more exaggerated. Of course, in terms of strength, there is only a little difference. Moreover, Jia Yan has seen so many species in his life, including dragons, and he has seen countless dragons, so he just took a glance at it, and was surprised for a moment, and then it's no big deal. It's not like a dragon, and it's not a real dragon. What's more, if you are a real dragon, ordinary domain lords still can't beat me. Jia Yan smiled and responded to the dragon-like lord of the rain territory, who could call for wind and rain, Mangzi. The three of you are from the outside world like me. These insults are also insulting yourselves. It is really self-deprecating. Incomparably, I forget my ancestors even if I read the classics, I don't even bother to do that. Still claiming to be me? Mangzi, we are different from you. At least we didn't do the sneak attack on other people's lairs. I don't care about your casual killings. The third brother known as Yu came to Jia Yan with a giant dragon's mouth, like a snake's mouth, open like a bloody mouth, a dragon body that was slender to 100 kilometers long, and whipped Jia Yan's body with one tail. A sneak attack on someone else's lair. Damn it, can this be justified? If you don't steal my Adisha star, can I come and beat you? Jia Yan felt that when facing this guy, it seemed that all his reasons would be dispelled by him with various reasons, and he could not quarrel with the other party's heresy. Could it be that when you reach the domain lord level, you should be arguing and fighting at the same time? I have a bit of a headache. Jia Yan is not a person who quarrels very much. Although he can often fool people, at this level where almost everyone is 1,000 years old, his eloquence and knowledge are a bit stretched. After all, he lives longer than others. It's too little. How can I have an advantage over others in terms of talking? So he acted decisively and stopped talking. Since he was stronger than the opponent, he might as well take action directly. He could use his fists. Oh no, why use his mouth to solve the problem with his feet? Isn't this using his own shortcomings to compete with others' strengths? Jia Yan is not stupid and would not do such a thing. Boom. Thinking of this, Jia Yan glanced at the water mist that had come to his head and was raining heavily, as well as the dragon swaying its tail in the mist, causing the whole sky, earth, and stars to faintly sway. The left front foot, which had been empty for a long time, also swung out in a long arc and slapped the opponent's tail with one foot. Aren't you like a dragon? Aren't you imposing? It is said that you are the weakest among the three brothers, but you act like you are the strongest, so I will use your best method to defeat you. And it must be defeated in one move. It turns out that Rain Attack's move is similar to Shenlong's unique move of seeing the beginning but not the end. It is true and false, false and true. Generally speaking, an ordinary domain master wants to pinpoint his position in the mist at a glance. It was difficult. He thought it would be difficult for Jia Yan to recognize his real tail. Unexpectedly, in a blink of an eye, he whipped his foot up and hit his tail with great force and heavy force. It was obviously a blow. He knew where his tail was coming from the beginning. Well, this incoming existence was not confused by his brainwave power talent at all. This dragon-like creature was not too shocked, because the domain master who could see the truth of his water mist illusion had actually encountered it before. He just took the seriousness of this battle to a higher level in an instant. This wasn't the end. What made him feel even more serious was the result of the collision between his tail and Jia Yan's feet. Boom! A brilliant brilliance resounded between heaven and earth, and then the shockwave blasted out again as always, but this time there were not many others who could be killed, because the previous ones were already dead, and those who ran far away would not be affected this time. Arrive. I saw large waves affected by shockwaves rising thousands of kilometers around. It seemed that a ripple caused by energy appeared inexplicably in the starry sky, swinging in a circle, which was quite beautiful. Of course, such beautiful things will usually kill people, especially in astronomical phenomena. The more beautiful and brilliant they are, the more massive and terrifyingly powerful things are. Just like now, this wave of beautiful feeling is basically created by the two powerful domain masters, and here, there are already many similar ripples, rippling one after another, which may last for months or even years in the future. Turned into a unique and beautiful phenomenon for future generations to admire. This is the power of the Territory Lord. It seems that Jia Yan can move his hands at will, but for a being of his level, any move he makes will have extremely large-scale consequences. The dragon's tail was pierced directly by its feet. At the same time as the shockwave rippled, the third brother, known as Yu, had already let out a miserable howl, and the expressions of the two powerful domain lord-level men around him suddenly changed. I saw the tail of this dragon-shaped creature and quickly pulled it away, but there was blood all the way. There is already a large hole in it with bone visible. Damn it, is this guy hiding his strength? Although the third brother is weaker than me, he is actually about the same level as us. Moreover, just now in order for him to succeed with one blow, the two of us also carried out flank cover. Unexpectedly, even so, the three of us joined forces. The strongest attack was broken by him with just one move. The two territory lords quickly sensed something was wrong. We are all domain masters, so we are naturally good at evaluating combat effectiveness. Especially for objects that are far different from their own strength, they are always in a unique state of mind during every move and every move. In the wave force encrypted communication mode, mutual verification is carried out. This is also the reason why the three brother domain lords have always been united in fighting together and are invincible. Although there are no extremely terrifying joint tactics, there are not even serious joint moves. But because they have the same mind, the three people's fighting modes complement each other perfectly, so once they join forces, their fighting power is really doubled. There was even one time before, when they faced off against a senior domain master, and then only a glorious battle that seriously injured one person. But now, They don't know that in front of them is another combat domain lord who is equivalent to a senior combat power, and they misjudged that he is a more powerful ordinary domain lord. If they make a wrong judgment, it will become a series of failure. That's what hurts like in the moment. The expressions of all three of them changed greatly. The injury to his tail was nothing, but this blow roughly tested Jia Yan's ability. It's scarier than they imagined. Your Excellency, who are you? Are you here to destroy us? The eldest and strongest of the three brothers named Bei asked coldly. If the fight continues, they know that they have to fight tooth and nail, otherwise it will be really difficult to save their lives in the hands of such a strong man. So before that, he wanted to try to communicate with the other party again to see if there was any room for change. Who am I? My name is Jia Yan. Didn't I explain the reason for coming to you and other forces as soon as I came? I just want to get my planet back. Of course, if you are stubborn and insist on fighting with me, if you become an enemy, I won't mind and will eradicate this self-proclaimed force of yours. Jia Yan responded lightly, and in the process, he even waved his foot and patted the bald Chen on the forehead. I saw that Chen's head, which should have been the hardest and most terrifying part of the body, suddenly swelled up with a terrible swelling that was visible to the naked eye. At this time, the three major domain masters were really a little panicked. They had already used all their strength and paid extremely close attention to Jia Yan's movements, but they still saw that with a wave of his foot, he hit the second-ranked brother like this, which was still his strongest defensive part. This strength, it's definitely not comparable. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please pause. We are willing to hand over that planet. Your Excellency, we admit defeat. Otherwise, he is the eldest brother. The creature named Bei is not only the strongest, but also the first in decision-making ability. When he saw that Jia Yan was so good at fighting, he was already ready to surrender, because if Jia Yan really just wants the so-called planet, they don't have to fight Jia Yan to death because of such a thing. In other words, the damage caused now may be much more valuable than the planet itself. After all, the buildings around the planet are also extremely expensive, not to mention the death of so many living things. Therefore, the indirect impact on them will lose a lot of fans. Even if the three powerful men join forces and use all their strength to repel this enemy, there is really no need. If they start a war in their own lair, they will only lose themselves. It is better to admit defeat and stop losses in time. I wish I had said this earlier. Jia Yan acted swiftly and stopped in time just as his foot was about to land on the chest of the creature named Bei. If this foot fell, even if Bei was not seriously injured, it would definitely be a serious injury. He could see Bei breaking into a cold sweat. The two domain lords behind him were a little bit in disbelief when they realized that Jia Yanzhen had stopped because of such words. Especially the dragon-like Rain, which is jaw-dropping. Is he really here because of that subspace planet? He felt that he had no love for picking up rags anymore, because it had offended such a strong person, and the harvest he had gained from picking up so many things in the past was not enough to compensate him. It would be better to pick up less in the future. Ha ha ha, Your Excellency Jia Yan, in fact, we also learned from the third brother's message just now that he really picked up your planet. We misunderstood. Text download address. Phone reading.